I'm David Martinez, 34, and 3 years ago I became a single father when my wife Sarah lost her battle with cancer. At her funeral, while I was still numb with grief, my mother-in-law pulled me aside and said those words that still echo in my mind: "You can't raise Emma alone, David. She needs a real family." My own sister nodded in agreement, suggesting I should consider other options for my 8-year-old daughter. They painted me as the struggling mechanic who worked late nights, the man who could barely manage laundry, let alone raise a brilliant little girl. They whispered about foster care, about Emma living with her aunt in the suburbs, about how I was being selfish keeping her. But last week, my daughter Emma stood on that graduation stage as valedictorian of her elementary school, and everything changed. The look on my family's faces when she thanked me in her speeches, when they realized they were wrong about everything. If you've ever felt underestimated by the people who should believe in you most, subscribe for more stories of quiet triumph and unexpected strength. The call came on a Tuesday morning in March, 3 years before Emma would stand on that graduation stage. I was under the hood of Mrs. Peterson's ancient Buick when my phone buzzed against my hip. Sarah's voice was different, thin, like it might break if she spoke too loud. "David, can you come to Dr. Morrison's office? I need you here." I dropped my wrench. The clatter echoed through the garage as I grabbed my keys, not bothering to wipe the grease from my hands. 20 minutes later, I sat in that sterile waiting room, my work boots squeaking against the polished floor, watching Sarah emerge from the doctor's office with eyes that had seen too much. "Stage 3, she whispered, and the world tilted sideways. "Breast cancer. Aggressive." The words hit like punches, each one stealing breath I didn't know I was holding. Dr. Morrison's voice faded into background noise as I watched Sarah's face crumple, then rebuild itself with the fierce determination I'd fallen in love with 8 years earlier. That evening, after we'd tucked 5-year-old Emma into bed and read her favorite story about a brave little mouse, Sarah and I sat at our kitchen table with a stack of medical brochures between us. The treatment plan looked like a war strategy: chemotherapy, radiation, possible surgery. 3 years of battle ahead. "You'll need help," Sarah said, her fingers tracing the edge of a pamphlet. "With Emma? With everything." I reached across the table, covering her hand with mine. "We'll figure it out." But Sarah's mother had already started making calls. Within days, our house filled with concerned relatives offering advice I didn't ask for. My sister Maria cornered me in the garage, her voice heavy with false sympathy. "You know, David, if something happens to Sarah, Emma might be better off with someone who can give her more stability. Someone with, a steadier income." I stared at her, grease still embedded under my fingernails, feeling the weight of her judgment. Nothing's going to happen to Sarah. But if it does, it won't. The doubt in her eyes stung worse than her words. Even then, before the real battle had begun, they were already planning for my failure. They saw a mechanic who worked with his hands, a man who'd barely graduated high school, and decided I wasn't enough for the challenges ahead. But they didn't see what I saw when I looked at Emma, the way she listened intently to every story. The questions that revealed a mind hungry for knowledge. The gentle way she tried to comfort her mother when the treatments began. They didn't see the promises I made in the dark hours when Sarah couldn't sleep. Vows whispered to the ceiling about the man I would become for both of them. Sarah fought like the warrior she was. Every chemo session, every radiation treatment, every sleepless night, she faced it all with a courage that humbled me. And Emma, our beautiful, brilliant Emma, adapted with the resilience that only children possess. She learned to make her own breakfast on the mornings Sarah couldn't get out of bed, to play quietly when Mama needed rest, to be brave when the grown-ups around her were falling apart. The medical records piled up on our kitchen counter: test results, treatment schedules, insurance forms that seemed designed to defeat us. But Sarah kept them all, organized in a blue binder that became the roadmap of our new reality. In the margins, she wrote notes to herself, reminders about Emma's school events, grocery lists, fragments of the life she was determined to keep living. "Promise me something," Sarah said one evening, her head wrapped in a colorful scarf that couldn't hide how much weight she'd lost. "Promise me you'll never let them convince you that you're not enough." I didn't understand then what she meant. I thought she was talking about the medical bills, the insurance battles, the exhaustion that came with juggling work and caregiving. I didn't realize she was talking about the whispered conversations that happened when I wasn't in the room. The family meetings where my future was discussed like I was a problem to be solved. Sarah kept fighting, and I kept believing. But the cancer had its own timeline, its own cruel logic. And somewhere in the back of my mind, a small voice began to whisper the question that would haunt me. What if they're right? What if I'm not enough? The funeral home smelled like lilies and sorrow. I stood beside Sarah's casket in my only black suit, the one she'd bought me for our wedding 8 years earlier. It still fit, though it felt foreign now, like armor I wasn't sure I deserved to wear. Emma clutched my hand, her small fingers surprisingly strong. At 8 years old, she understood that Mama wasn't coming home, but the finality of it hadn't settled in yet. She kept asking when we could go see Mama again, and I kept giving her answers that felt like lies. "She looks peaceful," people said, filing past us in an endless stream of condolences. They meant well, but Sarah didn't look peaceful to me. She looked absent, like someone had carefully arranged her features but forgotten to include the spark that made her Sarah. The service was beautiful, exactly what Sarah would have wanted. Her favorite hymns, readings from the poetry she loved, stories that made people laugh through their tears. I sat in the front row, Emma beside me, trying to be the strong father she needed while my world crumbled around me. After the burial, the family gathered at my mother-in-law's house. I should have gone home with Emma, should have started the long process of figuring out how to be a single father. Instead, I let them pull me into the kitchen, where the real business of death gets conducted. David, we need to talk about Emma's future, my mother-in-law, Carol, said. She was a kind woman who'd always treated me well, but grief had sharpened her edges. This is going to be incredibly difficult for you. My sister Maria nodded gravely. Emma needs stability. She needs a home where someone can focus entirely on her needs. I am focusing on her needs, I said, but the words sounded weak, even to me. You work 60 hours a week, Carol continued. You're barely making ends meet. Emma is a bright girl. She deserves better than scrambled eggs for dinner and daycare until 7 o'clock. The kitchen fell silent, except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of Emma laughing with her cousins in the living room. That laugh was the only real thing in the house, the only sound that mattered. I'm her father, I said, quietly. Of course you are, Carol said, her tone gentler now. But sometimes love means making hard choices. My sister in Phoenix has a beautiful home, excellent schools. Emma could have opportunities there that you simply can't provide. Foster care might be temporary, Maria added. Just until you get back on your feet. I looked around the kitchen at these people who claimed to love Emma, who were discussing her future like she was a problem to be solved rather than a little girl who'd just lost her mother. Their words felt like quicksand, each suggestion pulling me deeper into doubt. That's when I remembered the letter. Sarah had given it to me 3 weeks before she died, when we both knew the end was coming. Don't read this now, she'd said. Save it for when you need to remember who you are. I'd tucked it into my jacket pocket and forgotten about it until this moment. Now, surrounded by well-meaning family members who saw only my limitations, I could feel it there like a lifeline. I need some air, I said, and walked outside. The letter was written in Sarah's careful handwriting, words she'd crafted when she was too weak to say them out loud. My dearest David, if you're reading this, then I'm gone and you're probably scared. You're probably listening to people tell you that you're not enough, that Emma needs more than you can give. Don't believe them. I chose you to be Emma's father not because you had money or a college degree, but because you have the biggest heart of anyone I've ever known. You see people for who they really are. You fix things that are broken. You never give up on the people you love. Emma is going to need those qualities more than she needs a big house or expensive schools. She's going to need a father who believes in her, who shows up every day, who loves her enough to learn alongside her. You are enough, David. You have always been enough. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. Love her fiercely, teach her kindness, and trust yourself. She's lucky to have you. All my love. Sarai folded the letter carefully and put it back in my pocket. When I returned to the kitchen, the family was still discussing Emma's future, but their voices seemed smaller now, less certain. I'm taking Emma home, I said. She belongs with me. Carol started to protest, but I held up my hand. Sarah chose me to be Emma's father. She trusted me with the most important job in the world. I'm not going to let her down. I found Emma in the living room, curled up on the couch with a picture book. She looked up at me with eyes that were too serious for an 8-year-old. Can we go home, Daddy? Yeah, sweetheart. We can go home. As we walked to the car, I made a silent promise to Sarah, to Emma, and to myself. I would prove them all wrong. I would be the father Emma needed, the father Sarah believed I could be. And someday, when Emma was older, she would understand that love isn't measured in dollar signs or square footage. It's measured in showing up, in never giving up, in believing in someone even when the whole world tells you they're not worth believing in. The doubt in their eyes would fuel me for years to come. Every time I questioned myself, every time I wondered if they were right, I would remember Sarah's letter and the promise I made that day. Emma deserved better than their low expectations. She deserved a father who would fight for her, who would prove that love is stronger than circumstance, and that's exactly what I intended to do. The first 3 months after Sarah's death were like learning to walk again after a car accident. Every simple task felt monumental, every routine we'd established as a family now incomplete without her presence. Emma's first report card as a fatherless child arrived on a gray October morning. I opened it with shaking hands, expecting the worst. Her grades had slipped from A's and B's to mostly C's. With a note from her teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez. Emma is struggling with the transition, but shows remarkable resilience. She may benefit from additional support during this difficult time. I stared at that report card long after Emma had left for school, seeing not just grades but evidence of my failure. The family's voices echoed in my head. She needs stability. She needs someone who can focus entirely on her needs. The mornings were the hardest. Sarah had been the one who made sure Emma's lunch was packed. Her homework was in her backpack. Her hair was brushed properly. Now I stumbled through those routines, always forgetting something: her library book, her permission slip, the snack, money for the field trip. Daddy, my hair looks weird, Emma said one morning. Trying to braid it herself in the hallway mirror, I stood behind her, fingers clumsy with the unfamiliar task. Sarah had made it look so easy, weaving Emma's thick brown hair into perfect braids while discussing the day ahead. My attempts looked like something a drunk person might create. It's okay, sweetheart, we'll figure it out. But Emma's reflection in the mirror looked doubtful, and I couldn't blame her. I was doubtful too. The garage became my sanctuary and my prison. I'd built a decent business over the years, but it required long hours and constant attention. Before Sarah's death, we'd tag-teamed the parenting duties. Now I was trying to do both jobs, and neither one was getting the attention it deserved. My regular customers started noticing the change. Tom Bradley, who'd been bringing his trucks to me for 5 years, frowned when he picked up his Ford. Everything okay, David? This alignment's not quite right. I'd rushed the job, distracted by thoughts of Emma sitting in after-school care, probably the last kid to be picked up again. Sorry, Tom, let me fix that right now. But Tom was already loading his tools into the truck bed. Maybe I'll try Jackson's shop next time, nothing personal. That night, I sat at the kitchen table with Emma, trying to help her with her math homework. While reviewing the day's receipts, neither task was getting my full attention. Daddy, you're not listening, Emma said, frustration clear in her voice. She was right. I'd been nodding and making encouraging sounds while calculating how much money I'd lost that day. The math homework simple addition and subtraction that should have been easy sprawled across the table like a foreign language. I'm sorry, Em. Let's start over. But Emma had already closed her notebook. I'll ask Mrs. Rodriguez tomorrow. The rejection stung, even though I knew she was just being practical. Sarah would have made math homework feel like a game, turning numbers into stories that made sense. I was just a guy who knew how to fix engines, suddenly responsible for developing a young mind. My mother-in-law called every few days, always with the same question. How are you managing, David? The subtext was clear. Are you ready to admit you need help yet? We're doing fine, I'd tell her. Even when Emma's laundry was piling up and we'd eaten takeout pizza 3 nights in a row. Emma sounded tired when I talked to her yesterday. Is she getting enough sleep? She's fine, Carol. It's just that children need structure, David. They need routines, and I know what children need. But the truth was, I was learning what children needed one mistake at a time. I learned that 8-year-olds can't survive on cereal and sandwiches. Alone when Emma came home from school looking pale and listless, I learned that bedtime stories mattered when Emma started having nightmares about monsters that looked suspiciously like the fears I couldn't name. I learned that parent-teacher conferences were crucial when Mrs. Rodriguez called to express concern about Emma's withdrawn behavior. The worst part was watching Emma try to take care of herself. She'd started making her own lunch, choosing clothes that almost matched, attempting to braid her own hair. At 8 years old, she was becoming independent out of necessity, and I hated that I was the reason why. I can help more, Daddy, she said one evening, standing on a chair to reach the dishes. Mama showed me how to do lots of things. The sight of her small hands carefully washing plates that were too big for her to handle broke something inside me. She shouldn't have to help more. She should be playing with dolls, not doing dishes because her father was overwhelmed. Maria stopped by unannounced one evening, finding us eating frozen dinners in front of the TV because I'd forgotten to go grocery shopping again. David, this isn't sustainable, she said, settling into Sarah's chair like she belonged there. Look at this place. Look at Emma. I really looked. Emma was thinner than she'd been 3 months ago, her clothes wrinkled because I'd forgotten to take them out of the dryer. The house was clean enough, but it lacked the warmth Sarah had created with fresh flowers and the smell of homemade cookies. She's fine, I said, but the words felt hollow. She's not fine. She's adapting because she has to, but that's not the same thing as thriving. That night, after Emma had gone to bed, I found myself in Sarah's closet, surrounded by clothes that still smelled like her perfume. Hidden in her jewelry box was a small notebook I'd never noticed before. Sarah's handwriting filled the page's observations about Emma. Worries about her future. Hopes for the woman she might become. Emma asked me today what happens to little girls when their mamas die. I told her that their daddies love them twice. As much to make up for it, she seemed satisfied with that answer, but I worry it's not enough. David is a good man, but he doesn't understand how complicated it is to be a little girl in this world. I need to write down all the things Emma will need to know. How to braid her hair. How to stand up to bullies. How to believe in herself when everyone else tells her she's not smart enough or pretty enough or good enough. David can teach her to be strong, but someone needs to teach her to be brave. I closed the notebook, feeling the weight of Sarah's expectations and my own inadequacy. Emma needed someone who could teach her to be brave, but I was barely managing to be competent. The report card sat on the kitchen counter, a reminder of how far we'd fallen, but as I looked at it again, I noticed something I'd missed before. Under the section for teacher comments, Mrs. Rodriguez had written, Emma shows exceptional problem-solving skills and creativity. With additional support, she has the potential to excel academically. Potential, the word stuck with me as I turned off the lights and headed to bed. Emma had potential, and it was my job to help her find it. The family might be right that I didn't have all the answers, but I had something they didn't. I had Emma's trust. And I had Sarah's belief in both of us. Tomorrow, I decided I would start figuring out how to be better. Not perfect, but better. Because Emma deserved a father who was willing to learn, to grow, to become the man she needed him to be. The first months had been about survival. Now it was time to start living. The plastic chair in Mrs. Rodriguez's classroom was too small for my frame, making me feel like an oversized intruder in a world built for children. I'd taken time off work for this parent-teacher conference, leaving the garage during the busiest part of the day because Emma's education mattered more than the oil change. I was missing. Mrs. Rodriguez sat across from me at a tiny table covered with Emma's work samples. She was younger than I'd expected, probably in her late 20s, with kind eyes and the patient demeanor of someone who'd learned to deliver difficult news gently. "Thank you for coming in, Mr. Martinez. I know this is a challenging time for your family." She spread Emma's papers across the table like evidence in a case I wasn't sure I wanted to solve. Math worksheets with half-finished problems, reading comprehension sheets with thoughtful but incomplete answers, and art projects that seemed to capture Emma's inner world in ways that worried me. "Emma is a remarkable child," Mrs. Rodriguez began, and I felt a flicker of pride. "Her intelligence is quite advanced for her age. These writing samples show complex thinking patterns that I rarely see in third graders." She handed me a story Emma had written about a girl who could talk to stars. The handwriting was careful, each letter formed with the precision Sarah had taught her. The story itself was beautiful, imaginative, and wise in ways that made my chest tight with emotion. "But," Mrs. Rodriguez continued, and I braced myself for the criticism I'd been expecting, "Emma is underperforming academically, not because she can't do the work, but because she seems distracted, withdrawn." I looked at the math worksheet in my hands. Emma had started each problem correctly, showing she understood the concepts, but most were left unfinished, like she'd gotten lost somewhere in the middle of thinking. "Is she having trouble at home?" Mrs. Rodriguez asked gently. The question hit me like a physical blow. "No, she's fine. We're adjusting well." Mrs. Rodriguez nodded, but I could see the doubt in her eyes. "Mr. Martinez, I've been teaching for 7 years. I've seen children go through difficult transitions. Emma is clearly struggling with something." She pulled out a folder marked with Emma's name. "I've been documenting some concerning behaviors. Emma often seems tired in class. She stopped raising her hand, even though I know she knows the answers. During recess, she sits alone and reads instead of playing with other children." Each observation felt like an accusation. I thought of Emma's quiet mornings, her serious expressions, the way she seemed to be carrying weights too heavy for her small shoulders. "She's always been a quiet child," I said, but the words sounded defensive even to me. "There's a difference between being quiet and being withdrawn, Mr. Martinez. Emma has essentially stopped participating in her own education." Mrs. Rodriguez opened another folder, this one containing Emma's work from the beginning of the school year, when Sarah was still alive. The difference was stark. Earlier assignments were complete, creative, full of the enthusiasm that had been. It's slowly draining from Emma's world. Before her mother's death, Emma was one of my most engaged students. She asked questions, participated in discussions, helped other children with their work. Now she's become almost invisible. I studied the evaluation form she handed me, trying to make sense of the educational jargon. Exceeds grade level expectations in reading comprehension, shows advanced problem-solving abilities, demonstrates exceptional creativity and insight. "You're saying she's smart?" "I'm saying she's gifted, Mr. Martinez. Emma has the intellectual capacity to excel far beyond her current grade level, but intelligence without engagement is like having a sports car with no gas." Gifted. The word felt foreign in my mouth. I'd always known Emma was bright, but I'd attributed that to Sarah's influence. Sarah had read to Emma every night, had turned grocery shopping into math lessons, had made learning feel like an adventure. "What does that mean for her future?" I asked. Mrs. Rodriguez leaned forward, her expression earnest. "It means Emma needs to be challenged academically. It means she needs enrichment opportunities, advanced coursework, maybe even acceleration to a higher grade level. But more importantly, it means she needs emotional support to process her grief so she can engage with her education again." I felt overwhelmed by the implications. Gifted programs, enrichment opportunities, emotional support, these were things that required knowledge and resources I wasn't sure I possessed. "I barely graduated high school," I said, the admission coming out before I could stop it. "I work with my hands. I don't know how to help a gifted child." Mrs. Rodriguez's expression softened. "Mr. Martinez, being gifted doesn't mean Emma needs a parent with a PhD. It means she needs a parent who believes in her potential and is willing to advocate for her needs." She handed me a packet of information about the school's gifted and talented program. "Emma qualifies for testing. If she's accepted, she'll have access to advanced coursework, critical thinking challenges, and peer groups that match her intellectual level." The packet felt heavy in my hands. What if I mess this up? What if I can't give her what she needs? "You're here, aren't you?" Mrs. Rodriguez smiled. You took time off work to discuss your daughter's education. That tells me you're already giving her what she needs most to parent. Who cares? We talked for another 30 minutes about Emma's specific needs, about strategies for supporting her at home, about the importance of maintaining structure while allowing for emotional processing. Mrs. Rodriguez gave me a list of books Emma might enjoy, websites with educational games, and suggestions for activities that would challenge her growing mind. One more thing, Mrs. Rodriguez said as I prepared to leave. Emma mentioned that you help her with homework every night. She's very proud of that. Don't underestimate the value of your involvement. I thought about those frustrating evenings at the kitchen table, my clumsy attempts to understand concepts that seemed to come naturally to Emma. I feel like I'm not much help. You're showing her that learning is important. You're demonstrating that education is worth your time and attention. That's more valuable than having all the right answers. As I walked to my truck, the evaluation form tucked carefully in my jacket pocket, I felt a strange mixture of pride and terror. Emma was gifted. My daughter, my quiet, serious, too-thin daughter, had a mind that could take her anywhere she wanted to go. But I also felt the weight of responsibility settling on my shoulders like a heavy coat. Emma needed more than I knew how to give her. She needed opportunities I'd never had, challenges I didn't understand, support I wasn't sure I could provide. The family's voices echoed in my head again. She needs someone who can focus entirely on her needs. She needs opportunities you can't provide. Maybe they were right about Emma needing more, but Mrs. Rodriguez had said something that stuck with me. Emma needed a parent who believed in her potential, and that, I realized, was something I could do. I might not have all the answers, but I could learn. I could grow. I could become the advocate Emma needed. That evening, I sat with Emma at the kitchen table, looking at her half-finished math homework with new eyes. Instead of seeing failure, I saw potential. Instead of seeing problems, I saw possibilities. Emma, your teacher thinks you're really smart, like, really, really smart. Emma looked up from her worksheet, surprised. She does. Yeah, she wants to test you for a special program for kids who are extra good at learning. For the first time in months, I saw a spark of interest in Emma's eyes. What kind of program? I don't know yet, but we're going to find out together. Emma smiled, a real smile, not the polite one she'd been wearing since Sarah's death. Together? Together. We're a team M, and teams help each other succeed. As I helped Emma finish her math problems that night, I made a silent promise to both of us. I would learn everything I needed to know to support her gifts. I would become the father she needed, the advocate she deserved. And someday, when she was older, she would understand that intelligence is just the beginning. It's what you do with it that matters. The evaluation form sat on the counter, a roadmap to Emma's future. I might not know where that road would lead, but I knew I'd be walking it with her, one step at a time. The children's section of the public library became my second home. Every evening after work, I'd sit in the tiny plastic chairs designed for elementary school students, surrounded by picture books and educational websites, trying to learn alongside Emma. The schedule I'd created hung on our refrigerator like a battle plan. Monday, math review. Tuesday, science exploration. Wednesday, reading comprehension. Thursday, social studies. Friday, creative writing. Each day mapped out with the precision I once reserved for engine repairs. Daddy, you don't have to do this, Emma said one evening, watching me struggle with her 4th grade math workbook. She'd been moved up a grade after testing into the gifted program, and the curriculum was challenging both of us. Yes, I do, I said, erasing my 3rd attempt at a long division problem. How else am I going to help you? Emma leaned over my shoulder, her breath warm against my cheek. Like this, she said, guiding my pencil through the problem with a patience that reminded me painfully of Sarah C. You carry the remainder to the next column. The irony wasn't lost on me, my 18-year-old daughter teaching me the math. I needed to help her with homework, but I swallowed my pride and let her explain, because this wasn't about my ego. This was about showing Emma that learning never stops, that it's okay to not know everything as long as you're willing to figure it out. The hardest part was science. Emma's curious mind latched onto concepts that made my head spin. Photosynthesis, the water cycle, basic chemistry. I'd sit at the kitchen table after she'd gone to bed, reading her textbooks and watching YouTube videos, trying to stay one step ahead of our questions. Dad, why does water expand when it freezes? She asked one evening, holding up an ice cube that had cracked our freezer tray. I'd researched this exact question the night before, staying up until midnight to understand molecular behavior. Well, when water gets cold, the molecules slow down and form a pattern that takes up more space than liquid water. Emma's eyes lit up with understanding. Like when people spread out when they're dancing slowly instead of dancing fast? Exactly like that. I marveled at how she could take complex concepts and make them simple, visual, understandable. Her mind worked in ways that amazed me. The family didn't understand what I was doing. When Maria came to visit and found me hunched over Emma's history textbook, she shook her head in disbelief. David, you're not qualified to teach her this stuff. She needs real tutors, people with education backgrounds. I'm her father. I can learn. But why make it harder on yourself? There are programs, professionals who I said I can learn. Maria's expression softened with pity. You're working 60 hours a week and then coming home to play teacher. When do you rest? When do you take care of yourself? The answer was never, but I couldn't admit that. Rest was a luxury I couldn't afford. Emma needed me to be present, engaged, capable of supporting her academic growth. If that meant sacrificing sleep and social time, so be it. The breakthrough came on a Wednesday evening in February. Emma was working on a science project about renewable energy, and I'd spent the previous weekend researching solar panels, wind turbines, and hydroelectric power. Dad, I want to build a working model, Emma announced, spreading her sketches across the kitchen table. Something that actually generates electricity. I studied her drawings, detailed, thoughtful, ambitious. That's a pretty complicated project, but you know how to build things. You fix cars. This is just different engineering. She was right. The principles weren't that different from automotive electrical systems. I might not have understood the theory perfectly, but I could help her with the practical application. But we spent the next 2 weeks building a miniature wind turbine from scratch. I taught Emma how to use basic tools, how to measure precisely, how to troubleshoot when something didn't work. She taught me about wind patterns, energy conversion, and the environmental benefits of renewable power. This is fun, Emma said one evening, carefully attaching the generator to the turbine shaft. It's like we're both learning together. We are learning together. That's the point. The project earned Emma first place in her grades science fair. But more importantly, it showed both of us that I didn't need to have all the answers to be a good father. I just needed to be willing to search for the answers alongside her. The success gave me confidence to tackle bigger challenges. When Emma expressed interest in coding, I enrolled us both in an online programming course. When she wanted to understand astronomy, we spent Saturday mornings at the local observatory. When she decided to learn Spanish, I downloaded language apps and practiced with her during car rides. You're different than other dads, Emma observed one evening, watching me struggle through her French homework. Tommy's dad just tells him to ask his mom. Sarah's dad says homework is the kid's responsibility. Well, you're my responsibility. All of you, including your education, Emma smiled. I like that you try to learn everything with me. It makes me feel like we're a team. Team. The word stuck with me as I tucked Emma into bed that night. We were a team, facing challenges together, supporting each other through the difficult parts. I might not have been the traditional father figure the family expected, but I was the father Emma needed. The schedule on our refrigerator had evolved over the months, becoming more sophisticated as Emma's needs grew. Color-coded by subject, with specific goals and rewards built in. It wasn't perfect some evenings, we were too tired to stick to it. Some concepts proved too difficult for my self-taught understanding, but it was ours. David, you're obsessed, my mother-in-law said, during one of her visits, finding me at the kitchen table with Emma's chemistry textbook. This isn't healthy. What isn't healthy is giving up on your child's potential because the work is hard. But you're not a teacher, you're a mechanic. I'm a father, and fathers do whatever it takes. The truth was, I'd never been happier. Yes, I was exhausted. Yes, I was constantly challenged. But I was also constantly amazed by Emma's brilliant mind, constantly proud of her achievements, constantly grateful for the opportunity to be part of her intellectual journey. The doubters saw a man overextending himself, trying to be something he wasn't qualified to be, but Emma saw something different. She saw a father who valued her education enough to learn alongside her, who believed in her potential enough to grow his own capabilities. Late at night, when Emma was asleep and I was preparing for the next day's homework adventure, I'd sometimes find myself thinking about Sarah. She'd wanted Emma to have a father who could teach her to be brave. I might not have understood what that meant at the time, but I understood it now. Bravery wasn't about having all the answers. Bravery was about being willing to search for them, to admit when you didn't know something, to grow and learn and become better for the people you loved. The schedule on our refrigerator was more than a homework plan, it was a declaration, a promise that Emma's dreams were worth my time. Her potential was worth my effort. Her future was worth whatever sacrifices I needed to make. We were a team, and teams don't give up on each other, ever. The papers arrived on a Tuesday morning, delivered by a courier who seemed uncomfortable with the task. I signed for the envelope with grease-stained fingers, not understanding what I was accepting until I ripped it open in the garage office. Petition for custody modification. The header read below it, in legal language that made my stomach churn, was a formal request for Emma to be placed in the temporary custody of her aunt, my sister Maria, due to concerns about the current guardians, the ability to provide adequate care and educational support. My hands shook as I read the document. Maria had filed papers with the family court, claiming that Emma was being neglected, that her educational needs weren't being met, that her living situation was unstable. The petition listed specific concerns: irregular meal schedules, inadequate supervision, decline in academic performance, and emotional distress. I sank into the office chair, the paper crinkling in my grip. This wasn't just family pressure anymore. This was a legal attack on my competence as a father, a formal challenge to my right to raise my own daughter. The phone rang before I could fully process what I was reading. Maria's voice was apologetic, but firm. David, I know this is hard, but we're worried about Emma. She's been struggling, and you're in over your head. You filed for custody. The words came out as a whisper. Temporary custody, just until you can get back on your feet. Emma needs stability, and right now she has stability. She has me. David, be realistic. You're working all the time. You're exhausted. Emma's grades are suffering. This isn't about taking her away from you permanently. It's about giving her what she needs right now. I thought about Emma's recent report card, the one that showed her grades improving since she'd started the gifted program. I thought about our evening study sessions, the science project that had won first place. The way she'd been smiling more. Lately her grades aren't suffering. She's in the gifted program now. She's thriving. One good project doesn't erase months of struggle. David, we love Emma, and we love you. But love sometimes means making hard choices. The line went quiet, except for the sound of my own breathing. In the background, I could hear the familiar sounds of the garage tools clanking, engines running, the normal rhythm of my life that was suddenly under attack. I'm not giving up my daughter. No one's asking you to give her up. We're asking you to think about what's best for her. After Maria hung up, I sat in the office for a long time, staring at the petition. The legal language was intimidating, full of terms I didn't understand and implications I couldn't fully grasp. But the bottom line was clear. My family was trying to take Emma away from me. I called the first lawyer I found in the phone book, a family law attorney named Patricia Chen, who agreed to see me that afternoon. Her office was in a strip mall between a nail salon and a tax preparation service. Not exactly the prestigious legal firm I'd imagined, but her rates were reasonable, and her manner was kind. Mr. Martinez, I've reviewed the petition your sister filed. I have to ask, are any of these allegations accurate? I shifted uncomfortably in the chair across from her desk. Emma was struggling right after her mother died, but she's doing better now. She's in advanced classes, her grades are improving, she's happy. Do you have documentation of that improvement? I pulled out Emma's most recent report card, the science fair certificate, a note from Mrs. Rodriguez praising Emma's progress. Ms. Chen reviewed the documents carefully. These are good, but they're recent. Your sister's petition references a longer pattern of concern. Tell me about Emma's living situation. I described our daily routine, the homework schedule, the way Emma and I had built a life together. Ms. Chen took notes, occasionally asking clarifying questions about Emma's care, my work schedule, our support systems. Mr. Martinez, family court judges want to see stability, consistency, and evidence that the child's best interests are being served. From what you're telling me, it sounds like you're doing well, but your sister's petition raises legitimate concerns that we'll need to address. What kind of concerns? Working 60 hours a week while caring for a gifted child is challenging. The court will want to know that Emma is properly supervised, that her educational needs are being met, that she's receiving appropriate emotional support. I felt the familiar weight of inadequacy settling on my shoulders. I'm doing the best I believe you are. But doing your best and meeting legal standards aren't always the same thing. We need to document everything you're doing right and address any areas where improvements might be needed. Ms. Chen handed me a thick packet of forms. I want you to gather documentation of Emma's progress report cards, teacher evaluations, medical records showing she's healthy and up to date on checkups. I also want you to consider some changes that might strengthen your case. What kind of changes? Reducing your work hours if possible, finding reliable childcare for after school, maybe enrolling Emma in counseling to address the grief issues your sister mentioned. Each suggestion felt like an admission of failure, but I understood the logic. The court wouldn't care about my intentions or my love for Emma. They'd care about measurable outcomes, documented stability, professional assessments. That evening I sat Emma down for a conversation I'd been dreading. You know how sometimes grown-ups disagree about what's best for kids? Emma looked up from her homework, sensing the seriousness in my voice. Yeah. Well, Aunt Maria thinks maybe you should come live with her for a while. She thinks it might be easier for you. Emma's face went very still. Do you think I should live with Aunt Maria? No, I think you should live with me, because I'm your dad and I love you and we're a good team. But there might be some meetings where people ask you questions about how you feel. What kind of questions? Questions about whether you're happy, whether you feel safe, whether you like living with me. Emma was quiet for a long moment, processing this information with the seriousness she'd developed since Sarah's death. Are they going to make me move? Not if I can help it. But Emma, I need you to know that whatever happens, I'm going to fight for you. I'm going to do everything I can to keep us together. I don't want to live with Aunt Maria. She's nice, but she's not my dad. The simple statement hit me harder than any legal document could. Emma wanted to stay with me, trusted me, considered me her home. That had to count for something. Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into building the strongest case possible. I reduced my work hours, hiring an assistant mechanic to handle some of the load. I enrolled Emma in a grief counseling program, even though she seemed to be coping. Well, I documented every aspect of our daily routine, every academic achievement, every sign that Emma was thriving in my care. The family rallied around Maria's petition. My mother-in-law provided a statement about my inability to provide adequate emotional support. My own mother, who'd always been critical of my choices, wrote a letter expressing concern about Emma's exposure to an inappropriate work environment. But Emma's teachers rallied around us. Mrs. Rodriguez wrote a glowing letter about Emma's academic progress and emotional resilience. The gifted program coordinator noted Emma's exceptional participation and enthusiasm. Even the grief counselor, after just 2 sessions, wrote that Emma showed healthy attachment patterns and age-appropriate coping mechanisms. The court date was set for 3 weeks away. Ms. Chen warned me that these cases could go either way, depending on the judge's priorities and the strength of each side's arguments. The good news is that Emma is clearly doing well academically and emotionally. The challenging news is that single fathers, especially those without college degrees, face additional scrutiny in custody cases. I spent sleepless nights preparing for the possibility that I might lose Emma, that all my efforts might not be enough to overcome the family's concerns and the court's potential biases. The draft custody papers sat in my kitchen drawer like a time bomb, ready to explode our carefully constructed life. But then something unexpected happened. Emma's standardized test scores came back, showing dramatic improvement across all subjects. Her reading level was now 2 grades ahead. Her math scores were in the 95th percentile, and her writing samples were being used as examples for other students. More importantly, the school psychologist who'd evaluated Emma for the gifted program requested a meeting with me. Mr. Martinez, I've been working with children for 15 years, and I've rarely seen such a positive transformation in a child who's experienced significant trauma. Emma is not just surviving, she's thriving. Whatever you're doing, it's working. The psychologist agreed to write a letter for the court case, documenting Emma's emotional stability and academic progress. This child is clearly in an environment where she feels safe, supported, and challenged. I would strongly recommend against any disruption to her current living situation. 3 days before the court date, Maria called. David, I want to withdraw the petition. I nearly dropped the phone. What? I've been talking to Emma's teachers, to the counselor, to people who see her every day. They all say the same thing: she's doing well. Better than well. She's excelling. The relief was overwhelming. But I was also angry. Months of stress, legal fees I couldn't afford, nights spent worrying about losing my daughter, all because the family couldn't see past their own preconceptions. Why now? What changed? I saw her science project at the school showcase. I saw how excited she was, how confident. I saw the way she talked about you, David. She's proud of you. She's proud of what you've built together. That evening, I showed Emma the withdrawal papers, explaining that she wouldn't have to answer any questions about where she wanted to live. I know where I want to live, she said simply. I want to live with you, even though it's just us. Even though we don't have a big house or fancy things. Emma looked at me with Sarah's eyes and her own wisdom. Dad, we have each other, and we have homework to do. The custody papers went into the trash, but I kept the letters of support from Emma's teachers and counselors. They were proof that love could triumph over doubt, that dedication could overcome inexperience, that a mechanic from a small town could raise a gifted daughter who was destined for greatness. The family had tried to shake my confidence, to make me doubt my abilities as a father. But they'd actually done the opposite. They'd forced me to document my strengths, to recognize my successes, to see clearly what Emma and I had accomplished together. We were stronger than they thought. We were stronger than I'd thought. And we were just getting started. The stack of past due bills sat on my desk like an accusation. Electric company, 30 days overdue. Parts supplier, payment required before next delivery. Insurance premium, final notice. The numbers swam before my eyes as I tried to calculate how much I needed just to keep the lights on and the garage doors open. Reducing my work hours to spend more time with Emma had seemed like the right choice, the necessary choice. But the financial impact was brutal. I'd hired Jake, a young mechanic fresh out of trade school, to help cover the workload. But his salary, combined with my reduced billable hours, had thrown our already tight budget into chaos. Dad, are we poor? Emma asked one evening, watching me sort through the bills at the kitchen table. The question caught me off guard. Why would you ask that? Tommy's mom said his dad makes more money because he doesn't have to worry about taking care of kids by himself. She said single dads always struggle with money. I felt heat rise in my cheeks. The neighborhood gossip mill was apparently discussing our finances, and somehow that conversation had reached 8-year-old ears. We're doing fine, Em. Sometimes grown-ups have to juggle lots of different things, but we're okay. Emma nodded, but I could see the worry in her eyes. She was too smart, too observant, too aware of the tension that crept into my voice when I talked about money. The truth was more complicated than I wanted to admit. We weren't poor, exactly, but we were, living paycheck to paycheck with no cushion for emergencies, and in the automotive repair business, emergencies were a way of life. The parts supplier crisis came to a head on a Wednesday morning when my regular delivery truck didn't show up. I called the company, only to learn that my account had been suspended until I paid the outstanding balance. Mr. Martinez, you're 60 days behind on payments totaling $2,847, the accounts receivable clerk informed me. We can't extend any more credit until this is resolved. I looked around the garage at 3 cars, waiting for repairs. I couldn't complete without parts. Mrs. Chin's transmission repair needed a new torque converter. The Wilson's Suburban required brake pads and rotors. Mr. Davidson's pickup needed a water pump that I'd promised to install by Friday. I can pay half today and half next week, I offered, calculating quickly in my head. I'm sorry, sir. Company policy requires full payment before we can resume deliveries. I hung up the phone and stared at the 3 vehicles, each representing income I desperately needed but couldn't earn without parts I couldn't afford. It was a perfect catch-22, the kind of business problem that had destroyed better mechanics than me. Jake found me an hour later, sitting in the office with my head in my hands. Boss, the Wilsons are here for their car. What should I tell them? I looked up at Jake's earnest face. He was a good kid, eager to learn, hard. He'd taken the job believing in the garage's stability, and now I might have to let him go because I couldn't manage the business side of things. Tell them it'll be ready tomorrow. I'm going to make some calls. The next few hours were humbling. I called parts suppliers across the county, begging for credit extensions, payment plans, anything that would let me complete the repairs and get some cash flow moving. Most were sympathetic, but firm credit was based on payment history, and mine was becoming unreliable. Finally, I swallowed my pride and called my mother-in-law. Carol, I need a favor. I need to borrow $3,000 for the business, just until I can get caught up. The silence on the other end was deafening. When Carol finally spoke, her voice was gentle but pointed. David, this is exactly what we were worried about. You're struggling to balance everything, and it's affecting your ability to provide for Emma. It's temporary. I just need to get over this hump. How many humps are there going to be? You can't keep choosing between work and Emma's needs. Something has to give. I knew she was right, but admitting it felt like accepting defeat. Are you going to help me or not? I'll transfer the money today. But David, we need to have a serious conversation about Emma's future. This isn't sustainable. The loan came through that afternoon, allowing me to pay the parts supplier and complete the pending repairs. But the victory felt hollow. I had proven Carol's point. I was in over my head, scrambling to keep up with responsibilities that seemed to multiply faster than I could handle them. That evening, Emma found me in the garage after closing time, sitting on a workbench and staring at the tools that represented my livelihood. Dad, are you sad? I looked down at her serious face, streaked with concern that no 8-year-old should have to carry. Just thinking about work stuff. Is it because of me? Because you have to help me with homework and come to school meetings? The question broke my heart. No, nothing about you is a problem. You're the best thing in my life. But if you didn't have to take care of me, you could work more hours. I knelt down to her level, taking her small hands in my grease-stained ones. Emma, listen to me. I don't work to live. I live to take care of you. Everything else is just details. But the bills will get paid. Maybe not as fast as I'd like, but they'll get paid. And in the meantime, you and I are going to keep being a team. Emma hugged me then, her arms tight around my neck, and I felt some of the day's tension ease away. The bills were real, the business challenges were serious. But this moment, this connection with my daughter was what mattered. Over the next few weeks, I made changes. I raised my labor rates despite worrying about losing customers. I started being more selective about which repairs I accepted, focusing on higher-margin jobs that made better use of my time. I instituted a strict parts payment, policy no more credit, everything paid for up front. Some customers complained about the changes, a few took their business elsewhere. But gradually, the cash flow improved. The past due notices stopped coming. The parts supplier started extending credit again. Jake proved to be worth his salary, taking on more complex repairs and allowing me to focus on the business aspects I'd been neglecting. More importantly, he was understanding about the times. I needed to leave early for Emma's school events or arrive late after helping with homework. My dad was never around when I was a kid. Jake told me one afternoon, work was always more important than family stuff. I think what you're doing is cool. The comment meant more to me than Jake probably realized. I was building a different kind of success than the family expected, one that measured prosperity, not just in dollars but in presence, not just in profits but in priorities. The stack of bills still sat on my desk, but they were current now, manageable. The garage was profitable, though not extravagantly so. We had enough to pay our expenses, enough to save a little for Emma's future, enough to weather the small emergencies that inevitably arose. Are we still poor? Emma asked one evening, watching me balance the checkbook with considerably less stress than before. We were never poor, Em. We just had to figure out how to make everything work together, like a puzzle. Exactly like a puzzle. And we're getting better at putting the pieces in the right places. Emma smiled, satisfied with the analogy. I like our puzzle. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. The financial struggles had been real, and they'd tested my resolve in ways I hadn't anticipated. But they'd also taught me valuable lessons about priorities, about the difference between survival and success, about the importance of asking for help when you need it. The family had predicted that I'd fail financially, that the pressure of single parenthood would overwhelm my ability to provide for Emma. They weren't entirely wrong about the challenges, but they'd underestimated my determination to find solutions. We might not have had the financial cushion that other families enjoyed, but we had something more valuable than knowledge, that we could weather difficulties together, that love and determination could overcome temporary setbacks. That being enough didn't require being perfect. The garage hummed with activity again, profitable and stable. Emma's college fund grew steadily, a few dollars at a time, and somewhere in the back of my mind, I began to believe that we really were going to make it not just survive, but thrive. Emma's excitement was infectious as she spread her project materials across the kitchen table. Poster board, markers, photographs, and a complex diagram that looked like something a graduate student might create. The annual district science fair was 3 weeks away, and Emma had chosen a project that made my head spin just thinking about it. "I want to test the efficiency of different renewable energy sources," she announced, as if this was the most natural thing in the world for a 9-year-old to undertake. I studied her preliminary sketches: solar panels, wind turbines, and something she called a biomass generator that involved decomposing organic matter. This looks incredibly complicated. That's what makes it interesting. Mrs. Rodriguez says I should challenge myself. Mrs. Rodriguez, bless her heart, had been encouraging Emma to push her intellectual boundaries. But as I looked at the scope of this project, I wondered if we'd bitten off more than we could chew. "Okay, let's break this down. What exactly do you want to test?" Emma pulled out a notebook filled with detailed plans. "I want to build 3 small-scale energy generators and measure which one produces the most electricity per hour under controlled conditions. The engineering required would be significant. We'd need to build functional models, not just theoretical demonstrations. We'd need measurement tools, consistent testing conditions, and data analysis that would challenge even my limited scientific understanding. This is going to take a lot of work," I warned her. "I know. But Dad, think about how cool it would be if I could prove which energy source is most efficient. It could help people make better choices about protecting the environment." Her passion was undeniable. This wasn't just a school assignment for Emmy, it was a genuine investigation into something she cared about. How could I discourage that kind of intellectual curiosity? We started with research. Evening after evening, we sat together at the computer, reading about photovoltaic cells, wind resistance, and biomass energy conversion. Emma took notes in her careful handwriting while I tried to keep up with concepts that stretched far beyond my mechanical expertise. "Dad, did you know that a single wind turbine can power 300 homes?" Emma asked one evening, looking up from a scientific journal article that I was pretty sure was intended for college students. "I did not know that. That's amazing. And solar panels are getting more efficient every year. By the time I'm grown up, they might be able to power everything." I loved watching her mind work, the way she absorbed information and immediately started thinking about its practical applications. Sarah had been right. Emma was special, and she deserved every opportunity to explore her intellectual gifts. Building the actual models proved to be the most challenging part. The solar panel setup required precise wiring and voltage measurement, tools that cost more than I'd budgeted for the project. The wind turbine needed careful balance and aerodynamic design that took 3 attempts to get right. The biomass generator was the most ambitious component. Emma wanted to use kitchen scraps to create methane gas that could power a small flame. The science was sound, but the execution required chemistry knowledge that neither of us possessed. "Maybe we should simplify this," I suggested after our second failed attempt at creating a functional biogas collector. "No," Emma said firmly. "I want to do the whole project. Real scientists don't give up when things get hard." Her determination reminded me of Sarah during her final months, refusing to surrender to cancer even when the odds were overwhelming. Emma had inherited that same stubborn resilience, that refusal to accept limitations. We reached out to the local community college for help. Dr. Patricia Williams, who taught environmental science, agreed to meet with Emma and review her project design. "This is quite ambitious for a 4th grader," Dr. Williams said, examining Emma's detailed plans. "Are you sure you want to tackle all 3 energy sources?" "Yes," Emma replied without hesitation. "I want to know which one really works best." Dr. Williams smiled. "Well, if you're committed to the full scope, I can help you refine the methodology. But I have to warn you, this level of complexity is usually reserved for high school or college students." "Emma's in the gifted program," I explained. "She likes challenging projects." "I can see that. Emma, tell me about your hypothesis." Emma launched into an explanation of her theory, citing articles she'd read and calculations she'd attempted. Dr. Williams listened intently, occasionally asking clarifying questions that demonstrated just how thoroughly Emma had researched her topic. "Impressive," Dr. Williams said when Emma finished. "I think you have the foundation for an excellent project." Let me suggest some modifications that might make your experiments more manageable while maintaining scientific rigor. With Dr. Williams' guidance, we refined the project scope. The solar panel and wind turbine components remained ambitious but achievable. The biomass generator was simplified to measure gas production rather than attempting to create a working flame system. The next 2 weeks were a blur of late-night construction sessions. Emma proved to be surprisingly handy with tools, her small fingers more nimble than mine when it came to delicate wiring work. I provided the mechanical expertise, but the intellectual, Dr. Rive, was entirely hers. Dad, the solar panel is producing 0.7 volts in direct sunlight, Emma reported one Saturday afternoon, carefully recording measurements in her data log. Is that good? It's consistent with my research predictions. The wind turbine should produce similar voltage with adequate airflow. We tested the wind turbine using a hairdryer to create consistent airflow, measuring voltage output at different speeds. The biomass generator required the most patience, as we waited for organic matter to decompose and produce measurable gas. Emma documented everything meticulously, photographs of each setup, data tables showing voltage output over time, graphs comparing the efficiency of each energy source. Her project notebook looked like something a professional researcher might produce. The night before the science fair, Emma practiced her presentation in front of the bathroom mirror. I listened from the hallway, amazed by her poise and command of the complex material. Renewable energy sources offer sustainable alternatives to fossil fuels, but their relative efficiency varies significantly based on environmental conditions and technological implementation. She began, sounding like a tiny professor. The district science fair was held in the high school gymnasium, with projects displayed on long tables and judges moving from station to station. Emma's setup was more elaborate than most, with working models, detailed charts, and a presentation that drew crowds of curious parents and students. I watched from across the room as Emma explained her methodology to the first judge, a middle-aged woman who taught physics at the high school. Emma's confidence was remarkable. No nervous fidgeting, no hesitation, just clear communication of complex ideas. And what did you conclude? The judge asked. Solar energy was most efficient in direct sunlight, producing consistent voltage, with minimal environmental variation. Wind energy showed higher peak output but was more dependent on external conditions. Biomass energy had the lowest voltage output but offered the most consistent production over time. The judge made notes on her evaluation form, clearly impressed. This is graduate-level research methodology. How did you develop your experimental design? I read scientific journals and consulted with Dr. Williams at the community college. My dad helped with the construction, but the research and analysis were my responsibility. My chest swelled with pride. Emma had owned this project completely, taking responsibility for both its successes and its challenges. She wasn't just participating in the science fair, she was contributing genuine research to a field she cared about. The awards ceremony was held that evening. Emma sat in the front row with the other participants, her hands folded neatly in her lap, showing no signs of nervousness despite the competition from students 3 and 4 years older. First place in the environmental science category, the announcer called Emma Martinez for her project on comparative renewable energy efficiency. Emma's face lit up with pure joy as she walked to the stage to accept her award. But when she returned to her seat, she looked directly at me and mouthed, "We did it. We did it." Not just her achievement, but our partnership, our shared commitment. 2. Pushing boundaries and refusing to accept limitations. After the ceremony, other parents approached me with congratulations and questions about Emma's project. Some seemed genuinely impressed. Others appeared skeptical that Emma could produce such sophisticated work. She must have had a lot of help, one mother commented, eyeing Emma's award-winning display. She had support, I replied carefully. But the ideas, the research, the analysis, that was all Emma. The woman looked doubtful, but Dr. Williams, who had attended the fair to see Emma's presentation, overheard our conversation. I worked with Emma on this project, she said, joining our group. I can assure you that her understanding of the subject matter is genuine and impressive. This child has a remarkable scientific mind. That evening, Emma placed her first-place ribbon on the refrigerator next to our homework schedule. The 2 artifacts seemed to complement each other, one representing the daily discipline that had built her capabilities, the other proving what those capabilities could achieve. Dad, can I enter the state competition? Emma asked as we cleaned up the project materials. If that's what you want to do, we'll figure out how to make it happen. Emma smiled. I love that you always say we'll figure it out. You never just say no. The science fair victory was more than an academic achievement. It was validation that our approach was working, that dedication and curiosity could overcome any perceived limitations. Emma had competed against older students with more resources and more traditional family support, and she'd won based on the strength of her mind and the depth of her preparation. The family might have doubted my ability to nurture Emma's intellectual gifts, but the evidence was becoming impossible to ignore. My daughter wasn't just surviving in my care, she was excelling. pushing boundaries, making genuine contributions to fields that most adults found challenging. The award-winning project would be the first of many academic achievements, but it would always hold special significance. It was the moment when Emma's potential became undeniable, when the doubters had to confront the reality that a mechanic's daughter could outperform students from more privileged backgrounds. We were building something together, Emma and I, not just science projects, but confidence, capability, and the unshakable belief that intelligence combined with determination could overcome any obstacle. The ribbon on our refrigerator was proof that we were on the right path. The math tutoring program application sat on my kitchen table for 3 days before I found the courage to fill it out. The cost was significant, $200 per month for advanced mathematics instruction that would push Emma beyond her current grade level. It represented nearly a week's profit from the garage, money that could go toward Emma's college fund or our emergency savings, but Emma's hunger for mathematical challenges had outgrown what I could provide. She'd started creating her own problems when the homework became too easy, teaching herself concepts from library books that made my head spin. The science fair victory had given her confidence, but it had also revealed the limitations of what we could accomplish together. "Dad, what's calculus?" Emma asked one evening, looking up from a book she'd checked out from the adult section of the library. I stared at the page she was reading, full of symbols and equations that might as well have been hieroglyphics. "That's math for college students, Em. Really advanced stuff. But what does it do? What's it for?" I struggled to explain concepts I didn't fully understand myself. "It's used to calculate how things change over time, like how fast a car accelerates, or how much water flows through a pipe." Emma's eyes lit up with the same curiosity I'd seen during her science project. "Can I learn it?" The question haunted me for days. Emma was 10 years old, barely into 4th grade, but her mathematical intuition was clearly beyond elementary school level. Was I holding her back by limiting her to age-appropriate instruction? Mrs. Rodriguez confirmed my suspicions during our monthly check-in meeting. "Emma has mastered everything in our 4th grade math curriculum. She's ready for algebra concepts, maybe even geometry, but I'm not qualified to teach at that level. What do you recommend?" "There's an excellent math enrichment program at the university. It's designed for gifted students who need advanced instruction. Emma would work with graduate students and professors who specialize in mathematical education." Mrs. Rodriguez handed me the application packet, along with Emma's latest assessment scores. Her mathematical reasoning was at a high school level. Her problem-solving abilities were in the 99th percentile for her age group. "The program isn't cheap," Mrs. Rodriguez warned, "but for a student like Emma, it could be transformational." That evening, I spread the application materials across the table while Emma worked on homework that no longer challenged her. The program met twice a week for 2-hour sessions, covering everything from advanced algebra to basic calculus concepts. Students worked at their own pace, moving through material as quickly as they could master it. The cost breakdown was daunting. Registration fees, monthly tuition, required textbooks, transportation to and from the university campus. It would strain our budget significantly, requiring sacrifices I wasn't sure I was prepared to make. "What's all that?" Emma asked, looking up from her completed math worksheet. "Information about a special math program for kids who are really good at mathematics." Emma moved to look over my shoulder, scanning the application with the same intensity she brought to her science research. "It looks hard. It would be challenging, much harder than what you're doing now. Good, easy math is boring." Her Matava response made the decision suddenly clear. Emma wasn't asking for easier challenges, she was asking for harder ones. My job as her father wasn't to protect her from difficulty, but to provide opportunities for growth. I called the program coordinator the next morning. Dr. Sarah Kim explained the curriculum and expectations with enthusiasm that matched Emma's intellectual curiosity. "We work with children who are mathematically gifted but chronologically young. It requires emotional maturity as well as intellectual capability." How does Emma handle frustration? I thought about the science fair project, the hours Emma had spent troubleshooting problems that would have defeated most adults. She's persistent. When something doesn't work, she figures out why and tries again. That's exactly what we need. Mathematical exploration requires resilience and creativity, not just computational skill. Dr. Kim agreed to interview Emma before making a final admission decision. The interview would assess not just her mathematical knowledge, but her readiness for the emotional challenges of working with older students and more complex concepts. The family's reaction was predictably skeptical. Maria called within hours of learning about the tutoring program. "David, this is getting ridiculous. She's 10 years old. Let her be a kid. She is being a kid. A kid who loves mathematics. But the expense is my responsibility. Emma has a gift, and gifts need to be nurtured. You're putting too much pressure on her. What if she burns out? What if she develops anxiety about academic performance?" The concerns weren't entirely unfounded. I'd read about gifted children who'd been pushed too hard, who'd lost their love of learning under the weight of excessive expectations. But Emma's enthusiasm seemed genuine, driven by internal curiosity, rather than external pressure. She asked for this challenge. I told Maria, I'm not pushing her, I'm supporting her interests. You're in over your head, David. This isn't normal parenting territory. She was right about that. Nothing about raising Emma had been normal. But normal hadn't gotten us to the science fair victory, hadn't developed the close partnership we'd built, hadn't created the confidence Emma was gaining in her own abilities. Emma's interview with Dr. Kim took place on a Saturday morning at the university math department. I waited in the hallway while Emma spent an hour working through problems and discussing her mathematical interests. When the door opened, Emma emerged with a smile that told me everything I needed to know. How did it go? I asked. She gave me problems I'd never seen before, and some of them I couldn't solve right away. But Dr. Kim said that was okay, that not knowing something is just the beginning of learning it. Dr. Kim appeared in the doorway, her expression pleased. Emma is exactly the kind of student our program is designed to serve. She has strong foundational skills, excellent problem-solving instincts, and most importantly, she's excited about mathematical discovery. So she's accepted. Absolutely. When can she start? The first tutoring session was the following Tuesday. I drove Emma to campus, watching her eyes widen at the sight of university buildings and college students hurrying between classes. Are you nervous? I asked as we walked toward the math building. A little, but mostly excited. The classroom was small, with only 8 students ranging in age from 9 to 14. Emma was the youngest, but she settled into the group dynamic with surprising ease. I watched through the observation window as Dr. Kim introduced concepts that challenged even the oldest students. Today we're going to explore the relationship between geometry and algebra, Dr. Kim announced. Who can tell me what a parabola is? Emma's hand shot up, and I felt a familiar surge of pride as she confidently explained her understanding. This was where she belonged, in a room full of young minds grappling with complex ideas, pushing each other to think deeper and reach higher. The financial sacrifice was real. I canceled my cable subscription, started bringing lunch to work instead of buying it, postponed some non-essential home repairs. But watching Emma thrive in the program made every sacrifice worthwhile. Dad, we learned about infinity today, Emma announced after her 3rd session. Did you know there are different sizes of infinity? I did not know that, and I wasn't sure. I understood Emma's explanation, but her excitement was infectious. She'd found her intellectual tribe, a group of peers who shared her love of mathematical exploration. The program's impact extended beyond mathematics. Emma's confidence grew with each session. Her willingness to tackle difficult problems increased. Her comfort with being challenged became a defining characteristic. She's not the same child who started here 6 weeks ago, Dr. Kim observed. During a parent conference, Emma has developed genuine mathematical maturity. She's thinking like a mathematician, not just calculating like a student. The monthly payment remained a stretch for our budget, but I'd found ways to make it work. The garage was busier than ever, my reputation for quality work spreading through word-of-mouth referrals. Jake had proven himself capable of handling more complex repairs, allowing me to take on higher-paying jobs. More importantly, the tutoring program had given Emma something I couldn't provide on my own: intellectual peers and expert instruction that matched her capabilities. She was no longer the smartest kid in her regular classroom, no longer bored by material that failed to challenge her growing mind. Are you glad we decided to do this? I asked Emma one evening as she worked on problems that looked like advanced algebra. Yes, it's hard, but it's good hard. Like the science project was good hard. Good hard. I understood exactly what she meant. The kind of challenge that stretches you without breaking you, that builds capability while maintaining joy. In the process, the application had been more than a registration form. It was a declaration of faith in Emma's potential and my commitment to supporting her gifts. The family might question the wisdom of advanced mathematics for a 10-year-old, but Emma's growth was undeniable. She was becoming the mathematician I'd always sensed she could be, and I was becoming the father who could recognize and nurture exceptional talent. We were both learning that investment in potential pays dividends that go far beyond academic achievement. The tutoring program was preparing Emma for challenges I couldn't even imagine, but it was also teaching me that believing in your child's gifts is sometimes the most important gift you can give them. Some sacrifices are privileges in disguise. The envelope from the state education department arrived on a Thursday morning, official-looking and thick with documents I couldn't immediately identify. Emma was at school, and I was between customers at the garage when the mailman handed me what would turn out to be the most significant piece of paper in our journey together: standardized assessment results. Emma Martinez. The header read. Below it, a series of numbers and percentiles that made me sit down hard in my office chair. Mathematics, 99th percentile equivalent to 11th grade level. Reading comprehension, 97th percentile equivalent to 9th grade level. Scientific reasoning, 99th percentile equivalent to high school level. Overall academic performance, superior range, top 1% nationally. I read the results 3 times before the numbers began to make sense. Emma, my 10-year-old daughter, was performing academically at the level of high school students. The math tutoring program hadn't just helped her hit, had revealed capabilities that exceeded even my most optimistic expectations. The phone rang before I could fully process what I was seeing. Mrs. Rodriguez's voice was breathless with excitement. Mr. Martinez, have you seen Emma's test scores? I'm looking at them right now. Are these numbers accurate? Absolutely. Emma scored in the top percentile on every section. I've been teaching for 12 years, and I've never seen scores like these. From an elementary student, Mrs. Rodriguez explained that the state assessment was administered to identify gifted students who might benefit from acceleration or special programming. Emma's results put her in the company of high school juniors and seniors. What does this mean for her education? I asked. It means Emma needs opportunities that go far beyond what our elementary school can provide. She should be considered for grade acceleration, advanced placement, maybe even early admission to middle school programs. The implications were staggering. Emma was ready for educational challenges that most children wouldn't face for years. But she was still 10 years old, still my daughter who needed help braiding her hair and reminders to brush her teeth. Dr. Kim from the math program called that afternoon, having received a copy of Emma's scores. These results confirm what we've observed in our sessions. Emma isn't just mathematically gifted, she's academically exceptional across all domains. Is that normal? It's rare. Most students show strength in specific areas, but Emma demonstrates superior capability across mathematics, science, and language arts. This level of comprehensive giftedness occurs in less than 1% of the population. Dr. Kim recommended that Emma be evaluated for the university's Accelerated Learning program, which allowed exceptional students to take college-level courses while completing their K-12 education. She's only 10, I protested. Chronologically, yes, but intellectually, Emma is ready for challenges that match her capabilities. The question isn't whether she can handle advanced coursework, it's whether we should limit her potential by keeping her in age-appropriate classes that no longer serve her needs. That evening, I sat Emma down for a conversation about her future that felt surreal in its implications. Your test scores came back today. They show that you're really smart, smarter than most high school students. Emma looked up from her homework with interest but not surprise. Okay, what does that mean? It means you have options. You could skip ahead to higher grades, take classes with older students, maybe even take some college courses. Would I still live with you? The question cut straight to my heart. Of course, you'd still be my daughter, still live at home, still be part of our family. But during the day, you might be learning different things with different teachers. Emma considered this thoughtfully. Would the work be harder? Much harder. But you've shown that you like challenges. Could I still do science projects? Even better science projects, with equipment and resources we can't access now. Emma nodded slowly. I think I'd like that. But I don't want to leave you behind. Her concern about leaving me behind revealed the depth of our partnership. Emma understood that her academic acceleration might create distance between us, that she might enter educational territories where I couldn't follow. My job as your dad isn't to keep up with everything you learn. My job is to support your learning, to be proud of your achievements, and to make sure you never forget where you came from. The family's reaction to Emma's scores was complex. Pride mixed with bewilderment, excitement tempered by concern about the implications of having a genuinely exceptional child. My mother-in-law called that evening, her voice filled with emotions I couldn't quite identify. David, these scores are incredible. Emma is. She's extraordinary. She is. But what does this mean for her childhood, for her social development, for her relationship with peers? The questions were legitimate. Gifted children faced unique challenges: social isolation, perfectionism, difficulty relating to age peers. Emma's exceptional capabilities could become burdens if not handled carefully. We'll figure it out as we go, I said. Emma's happiness comes first, but we can't ignore her intellectual needs either. You're going to need help. This is beyond what any parent can navigate alone. For once, I didn't bristle at the suggestion that I needed assistance. Emma's giftedness required expertise I didn't possess, resources I couldn't provide, educational planning that went far beyond my experience. The school district's gifted education coordinator, Dr. Jennifer Martinez, no relation, met with us the following week to discuss Emma's options. Emma's scores qualify her for every accelerated program we offer, Dr. Martinez explained. The question is finding the right balance between academic challenge and social development. She outlined several possibilities. Subject-based acceleration, that would move Emma to higher grades for specific classes. Grade skipping, that would advance her entirely to middle school. Or a hybrid approach that combined elementary enrollment with advanced coursework. What do you recommend? I asked. For a student like Emma, I usually suggest a gradual transition. Start with advanced mathematics and science classes with older students. Maintain her age-peer relationships for social activities, and evaluate her adjustment before making additional changes. Emma listened to these discussions with the serious attention she brought to academic challenges. When asked for her preferences, she was characteristically thoughtful. I want to learn harder things, but I don't want to feel like a weirdo. Can I try the harder classes and see how it goes? Her maturity in handling the conversation impressed both Dr. Martinez and me. Emma understood the complexity of her situation and was willing to approach it experimentally rather than demanding immediate gratification. The paperwork for Emma's academic acceleration took weeks to complete. IQ assessments, psychological evaluations, teacher recommendations, parental interviews. The process was thorough and sometimes overwhelming, but the results were worth the effort. Emma would begin taking 7th grade mathematics and 6th grade science while remaining in 4th grade for other subjects. She'd have access to the middle school's advanced laboratory equipment and specialized teachers who could challenge her growing capabilities. "Are you excited?" I asked Emma on the night before her first advanced math class. "Excited and nervous? What if the older kids don't like me? What if I can't keep up?" I thought about all the times Emma had exceeded expectations, all the challenges she'd conquered through determination and intelligence. You've proven over and over that you can handle difficult situations, and if something doesn't work out, we'll adjust. We're still a team. Emma's first week in accelerated classes went better than either of us had dared hope. The older students accepted her based on her capabilities rather than her age. The teachers appreciated her curiosity and work ethic. Most importantly, Emma was intellectually engaged in ways that hadn't been possible in age-appropriate classrooms. "Dad, we're studying polynomial equations in math class," Emma announced after her 3rd day. "And in science, we're learning about molecular structures." The excitement in her voice was unmistakable. Emma had found her academic home, a place where her mind could grow without artificial limitations. The test scores had been more than numbers on a page. They were validation that our approach was working, that dedication and support could nurture exceptional potential, that believing in your child's capabilities could help them exceed even the most optimistic expectations. The family's doubts about my ability to support Emma's intellectual development seemed increasingly hollow in the face of documented evidence. Emma wasn't just surviving in my care, she was thriving at levels that qualified her as academically exceptional. But more than the scores themselves, I was proud of how Emma was handling her giftedness. She remained kind, curious, and grounded despite her extraordinary capabilities. The values we'd built together, hard work, humility, determination, serving her well as she navigated the challenges of being intellectually advanced while chronologically young. The breakthrough wasn't just academic, it was proof that love, support, and high expectations could help a child reach their full potential, regardless of their starting circumstances or their parents' educational background. Emma was becoming the scholar I'd always sensed she could be, and I was becoming the father who could recognize and support exceptional talent. We were both learning that potential has no limits when it's nurtured with wisdom and unconditional love. The acceptance letter from Lincoln Middle School's advanced academic program arrived in March, printed on official letterhead that made the opportunity feel both thrilling and intimidating. Emma had been selected for full-time enrollment in the district's most competitive middle school program, designed for students who tested in the top 1% academically. "Congratulations, Emma Martinez." The letter began, "Based on your exceptional academic performance and standardized test scores, you have been accepted into our accelerated learning program beginning in the fall semester." I read the letter aloud to Emma over breakfast, watching her face light up with excitement and nervousness in equal measure. "That means I'd be in 6th grade instead of 5th grade next year?" she asked. "It means you'd be in a program designed specifically for kids like you, kids who need more challenging coursework than regular classes can provide." The program description was impressive. Advanced mathematics through Algebra 2, honors science, with laboratory research components, accelerated language arts, and opportunities for independent study projects. Emma would be learning alongside students who shared her intellectual capabilities and academic drive, but the transition also meant leaving behind the elementary school environment, where she'd grown comfortable, where teachers knew her story, and supported our unconventional family situation. "Will I know anyone there?" Emma asked, a note of worry creeping into her voice. "Maybe some kids from your math tutoring program, but mostly it'll be new people, students from all over the district, who qualified for the program." Emma nodded thoughtfully. At 10 years old, she'd already experienced more educational transitions than most children face in their entire school careers. But each change had led to better opportunities, more challenging coursework, and intellectual peers who understood her way of thinking. The family's reaction to Emma's acceptance was mixed. My mother-in-law was proud but concerned about the social implications of accelerating Emma's education so dramatically. "She's still a child, David. What about friendships? What about normal childhood experiences? She'll make friends with kids who share her interests. And Emma has never been interested in entirely normal childhood experiences." Maria was more direct in her concerns. "You're pushing her too hard, too fast. What happens when she burns out? What happens when the work becomes too difficult? Then we'll adjust. But right now, Emma is bored and unchallenged. This program will give her the intellectual stimulation she needs." The truth was, I shared some of their concerns. Emma would be the youngest student in the program by nearly 2 years. She'd be competing academically with children who had more life experience, more developed social skills, and potentially more family resources. but Emma's capabilities had consistently exceeded expectations. Her academic performance, emotional maturity, and problem-solving skills suggested she was ready for more significant challenges. Dr. Kim from the math program supported the transition enthusiastically. Emma has outgrown what we can offer here. She needs curriculum and peers that match her intellectual level. The middle school program is perfect for students like her. We visited Lincoln Middle School on a spring afternoon, touring classrooms where 6th and 7th graders worked on projects that looked like high school coursework. Emma observed everything with intense curiosity, asking questions about the laboratory equipment, the computer programming class, and the robotics team. "This looks really cool," she whispered as we watched students conducting chemistry experiments under teacher supervision. The program coordinator, Ms. Sarah Chen, explained the academic expectations and support systems designed to help gifted students succeed. "We understand that intellectual advancement doesn't always align with emotional development. Our teachers are trained to work with chronologically young but academically advanced students like Emma." Ms. Chen showed us examples of student work research papers, science projects, mathematical proofs that demonstrated the program's rigor and creativity. "Would Emma be able to keep up with this level of work?" I asked, based on her test scores and teacher recommendations. "Absolutely. Emma's academic profile suggests she thrive in this environment." Emma had been quiet during most of the tour, absorbing information and forming her own impressions. As we walked back to the car, I asked for her thoughts. "It's scary because it's all new people and harder work, but it's exciting because I'll finally be in classes that make me think." Her mature analysis of the situation impressed me. Emma understood both the challenges and opportunities, and she was willing to embrace the difficulty for the sake of intellectual growth. The summer before Emma started middle school, we focused on preparing her for the transition. She read advanced literature, practiced writing analytical essays, and continued her mathematics tutoring to ensure she'd be ready for Algebra 2. More importantly, we talked about the social aspects of being the youngest student in an advanced program. "Some kids might treat you differently because you're younger," I warned her. "They might think you don't belong there." "What should I do if that happens?" "Prove them wrong through your work. Show them that you earned your place in the program just like they did." Emma nodded seriously. "And if they're still mean, then you remember that their opinion doesn't define your worth. You're there because you're smart and hardworking, not because you need their approval." The first day of middle school was nerve-wracking for both of us. I drove Emma to the campus, watching her walk into the building with her backpack and the confidence we'd built together over the years. "How do you think it'll go?" Jake asked when I returned to the garage. He'd become invested in Emma's academic journey, often asking about her latest achievements. "I think she'll be fine. Emma's proven she can handle challenges," but I worried throughout the day, wondering if we'd made the right decision, if Emma was ready for such a dramatic educational acceleration. The answer came that afternoon when Emma climbed into the truck with a smile that told me everything I needed to know. "How was it?" I asked. "Hard, but good. My math teacher is really smart, and we're going to learn about functions and graphing. My science teacher showed us the microscopes we'll use for cell biology research." Emma's enthusiasm was infectious. She described her classmates' kids from across the district who shared her love of learning and academic challenge. She talked about the research project options, the advanced reading assignments, the computer programming electives. "Are you glad we decided to do this?" I asked. "Yes, I finally feel like I'm in the right place." The academic transition proved smoother than either of us had anticipated. Emma's homework became more sophisticated, but her study habits and work ethic prepared her well for the increased demands. Her grades remained excellent, and her teachers consistently praised her contributions to class discussions and group projects. More importantly, Emma found her social niche among students who valued intelligence and academic achievement. She made friends with kids who understood her interests, who shared her curiosity about complex topics, who didn't think it was weird to be excited about mathematics or science. "I have study partners now," Emma announced one evening. "Kids who I actually want to work on projects together instead of just copying homework." The transformation was remarkable. Emma had found an educational environment that challenged her intellectually while supporting her social development. She was no longer the smartest kid in the room, no longer bored by material that failed to engage her capabilities. The family gradually acknowledged that the middle school transition had been the right choice. Emma's happiness was obvious. Her academic growth was documented, and her emotional adjustment exceeded everyone's expectations. I was wrong to worry. My mother-in-law admitted during a visit, "Emma is thriving. She's found her people." The acceptance letter had been more than an invitation to advanced coursework. It was recognition that Emma belonged among the district's most gifted students, that her exceptional capabilities deserved exceptional opportunities, but more than academic validation. The middle school program gave Emma something invaluably: a peer group that understood and appreciated her intellectual gifts, teachers who could challenge her growing mind, and an educational environment that matched her potential. Emma was becoming the scholar we'd always known she could be, surrounded by resources and relationships that would continue shaping her development. For For years to come, the transition proved that taking calculated risks on behalf of your child's potential can lead to opportunities beyond your wildest imagination. Emma was ready for challenges I couldn't have conceived when she was struggling with elementary school grief and adjustment. We'd come so far from those early days of doubt and family pressure. Emma was succeeding at the highest academic level, and I was learning that supporting exceptional talent sometimes means embracing opportunities that seem impossible at first glance. The acceptance letter would join Emma's science fair ribbon and test scores as evidence of what dedication and high expectations could achieve. We were building a foundation for Emma's future, one challenge and opportunity at a time. The Father's Day card arrived at the garage in a hand-decorated envelope that immediately caught my attention among the bills and business correspondence. Emma had convinced Jake to deliver it during his lunch break, wanting to surprise me at work rather than waiting until I got home. I opened it carefully, mindful of the glue and glitter that decorated the homemade creation. Inside, Emma's careful handwriting filled both sides of the folded construction paper. Dear Dad, Mrs. Patterson asked us to write about someone who inspires us. I wrote about you. Not because you have a fancy job or because you're famous, but because you never gave up on me, even when everyone else thought you should. I remember when Mama died and Grandma Carol said maybe I should live somewhere else. I remember when Aunt Maria said you couldn't help me with homework because you didn't go to college. I remember when people said you weren't smart enough to raise a smart kid, but you learned math with me. You helped me build science projects. You drove me to the university for tutoring even though it cost a lot of money. You came to every school meeting and every academic competition. You believed I could do anything, and you helped me believe it too. I know I'm different from other kids. I know my brain works in ways that sometimes make people uncomfortable. But you never made me feel like being smart was something to hide or apologize for. You made me feel like it was a gift worth sharing. Some of my friends think it's weird that their dads don't understand their homework. They think it's normal for parents to say, ask your teacher when kids need help. But you learned right alongside me, and that made me feel like we were a team. I love that you're proud of me, but I'm proud of you too. You're the best dad in the world, not because you're perfect, but because you try so hard to be exactly what I need. Happy Father's Day. Thank you for showing me that love is stronger than doubt. Emma sat in my office chair, holding the card and trying not to cry in front of the customers in the waiting area. Every word reflected the journey we'd traveled together. Every sentiment captured the bond we'd built through challenges that had tested both of us. The card wasn't just a Father's Day gift, it was Emma's acknowledgement of our partnership, her recognition of the sacrifices I'd made, and the faith I'd shown in her potential. It was proof that she understood the depth of our connection and the significance of what we'd accomplished together. That evening, I found Emma in her room, working on a calculus problem set from her summer enrichment program. At 11 years old, she was tackling mathematical concepts that most high school students found challenging, but she approached the work with the same methodical persistence she'd always shown. Thank you for the card, I said, sitting on the edge of her bed. It's the best gift anyone's ever given me. Emma looked up from her homework, pencil still in hand. I meant every word. I know you did. That's what makes it so special. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment, father and daughter surrounded by the artifacts of Emma's academic journey. Advanced textbooks, award certificates, acceptance letters, and research projects filled her room like evidence of a childhood spent pursuing excellence. Dad, do you ever wonder what would have happened if Mama hadn't died? The question caught me off guard. Emma rarely spoke about alternative histories, preferring to focus on current realities rather than hypothetical scenarios. Sometimes, why, do you ask? I think I might not have become so interested in learning when Mama was alive. I was just a regular kid who was good at school. But after she died, studying became something we did together. It became special. Emma's insight was remarkably mature. She understood that tragedy had shaped her development in unexpected ways, that our shared commitment to her education had emerged from circumstances neither of us would have chosen. Do you think that's bad? That something good came from something so sad? No, Emma said thoughtfully. I think it means we found a way to honor Mama's memory by becoming the best versions of ourselves. The wisdom in her response reminded me that Emma's intellectual gifts extended beyond academic subjects. She possessed emotional intelligence and philosophical depth that impressed everyone who knew her. You know what I love most about our relationship? I asked. What? We're both still learning? I learn from you. You learn from your teachers. We learn from our mistakes. We're growing together instead of staying the same. Emma smiled. I love that too. Some kids think their parents know everything, but that's boring. It's more fun when we figure things out together. Our evening conversations had become a treasured ritual, a time when we processed the day's experiences and planned for tomorrow's challenges. These discussions ranged from advanced mathematics to philosophical questions about life, purpose, and meaning. Dad, do you think being smart is a responsibility? The question reflected Emma's growing awareness of her exceptional capabilities and their implications for her future. What do you mean? Like if I can understand things that other people can't, does that mean I have to use my brain to help people? Or can I just use it for myself? I considered the question carefully, recognizing its complexity and importance for Emma's developing sense of identity. I think being smart is like being strong or talented in any way. It's a gift that can be used selfishly or generously. The choice is yours, but I hope you'll choose to use your gifts in ways that make the world better. That's what I want to do. I want to solve problems that matter, not just get good grades. Emma's sense of purpose was already forming, shaped by our discussions about responsibility, service, and the connection between capability and contribution. Our weekend activities reflected the unique nature of our relationship. While other fathers and daughters might go shopping or watch movies, Emma and I visited science museums, attended university lectures, open to the public, and worked on projects that challenged both of us. "Look at this," Emma said one Saturday at the Natural History Museum, pointing to a display about renewable energy research. "This is exactly what I studied for my science fair project, but they're doing it on a much bigger scale. Do you want to talk to the researcher?" Emma nodded eagerly, and we spent the next hour discussing advanced energy concepts with a graduate student who was impressed by Emma's knowledge and insight. These experiences reinforced Emma's confidence while exposing her to possibilities. For her future, she was learning that intelligence could be a bridge to meaningful work, that academic success could lead to opportunities to make real-world impact. The bond between us had been forged through shared challenges and mutual respect. I respected Emma's intellectual gifts and supported her academic pursuits. She respected my dedication and appreciated the sacrifices I'd made on her behalf. "Dad, when I'm older and maybe working as a scientist or mathematician, will you still help me figure things out?" "Always. My job as your father doesn't end when you graduate, or get a job, or even when you have your own family. I'll always be here to help you figure things out." "Good, because even when I'm really smart about some things, I still need my dad for the important stuff." "What kind of important stuff?" "Like knowing when to be brave and when to be careful. Like understanding that being smart isn't the same as being wise. Like remembering that people matter more than achievements." Emma's response revealed the depth of our relationship and the values we'd built together. Academic success was important, but it wasn't the foundation of our bond. Our connection was based on love, trust, and mutual support that would endure regardless of grades or achievements. The handmade Father's Day card sat on my dresser next to photos of Sarah and Emma, a reminder of the unexpected gift that had emerged from our greatest loss. Emma and I had become more than father and daughter. We'd become partners in a journey of growth and discovery that had exceeded both our expectations. Our daily routines reflected the unique partnership we'd developed. Emma would often join me at the garage after school, doing homework in the office while I finished repairs. She'd become a familiar sight to my customers, the serious young girl who could explain automotive problems with surprising accuracy. "Your daughter's pretty smart," Tom Bradley observed one afternoon, watching Emma help Jake diagnose an electrical issue. "She figured out that short circuit faster than I would have. She has a good mind for problem solving." I agreed, watching Emma trace wiring patterns with the same methodical approach she brought to mathematics. "You must be proud, every day." But pride was only part of what I felt watching Emma navigate her exceptional capabilities with grace and humility. I was also grateful for the opportunity to support her growth. Grateful for the lessons she taught me about potential and perseverance. Grateful for the depth of our relationship. The family had gradually accepted that Emma's academic acceleration was not only appropriate but necessary. They'd witnessed her transformation from a struggling, grieving child to a confident, accomplished young scholar who was thriving in environments designed for much older students. "I underestimated both of you," my mother-in-law admitted during a recent visit. "I thought you were in over your head, David. I thought Emma was being pushed too hard. But watching her now, seeing how happy and engaged she is, you've done something remarkable together." The acknowledgement meant more to me than any academic award Emma might receive. It was recognition that our unconventional approach had succeeded, that love and dedication could overcome educational and economic limitations. Emma's confidence in our relationship allowed her to take risks and embrace challenges that might have intimidated other children. She knew I would support her efforts, celebrate her successes, and help her learn from failures. "Dad, I want to enter the state mathematics competition," Emma announced one evening. "It's for high school students, but Dr. Kim thinks I'm ready." "What would that involve?" "Really hard problems? Working with students who are much older, probably? Not winning, but learning a lot." Emma's realistic assessment of the challenge impressed me. She wasn't seeking easy victories, but meaningful growth opportunities, even when success wasn't guaranteed. "If you want to try it, we'll make it happen, even though I might not do well, especially because you might not do well." That's how we learn, by challenging ourselves beyond our comfort zones. Emma's smile told me she understood the deeper message. Our relationship was built on support for growth, not just celebration of achievements. I would be proud of her effort regardless of the outcome. The Father's Day card captured something essential about our journey together: the recognition that love, support, and high expectations could help a child reach extraordinary heights, while maintaining the values and relationships that truly mattered. Emma was becoming an exceptional student and scholar, but she was also becoming a thoughtful, compassionate young person who understood that intelligence was a gift to be shared rather than a trophy to be hoarded. Our bond had been tested by loss, strengthened by challenges, and deepened by shared commitment to growth and learning. We'd proven that a single father without a college degree could raise a daughter destined for academic greatness, and that a brilliant child could remain grounded in love and family values. The handmade card would join the collection of artifacts that told our story: report cards, award certificates, acceptance letters, and now this simple expression of gratitude and love that meant more than any official recognition ever could. We were a team, Emma and I, partners in a journey that had transformed both of us. The doubters had been wrong about our capabilities, but more importantly, they'd underestimated the power of unwavering love and support to nurture extraordinary potential. As I tucked Emma into bed that night, she looked up at me with eyes that held both Sarah's wisdom and her own unique perspective on the world. "Dad, do you think Mama would be proud of us? I think she'd be amazed by what we've accomplished together. But mostly, I think she'd be proud that we never gave up on each other." Emma smiled and closed her eyes, secure in the knowledge that she was loved, supported, and believed in. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and opportunities, but tonight, we were simply father and daughter, grateful for the bond that had carried us through our darkest times and into our brightest possibilities. The business license renewal notice arrived with a stack of forms that represented more than just paperwork. They symbolized 5 years of building something sustainable while raising an extraordinary daughter. As I filled out the documents, I reflected on how dramatically both the garage and our lives had changed. Since those early days of struggle and doubt, Martinez Automotive had evolved from a one-man operation, barely breaking even, into a respected business that customers sought out for quality work and honest service. The transformation hadn't happened overnight, but the steady growth reflected the same principles I'd applied to Emma's education: dedication, continuous improvement, and never accepting limitations as permanent. Jake had developed into a skilled mechanic whose expertise complemented my own. What had started as a necessity hiring help so I could spend more time with Emma had become a genuine partnership that strengthened the business. "Boss, we've got 3 more customers this week asking specifically for us because of word of mouth referrals," Jake reported during our weekly planning meeting. "Mrs. Chen recommended us to her whole book club, and they're all bringing their cars here now." The referral network had grown organically, built on the foundation of competent work and customer service that put people first. I'd learned that treating customers like family, explaining repairs clearly, and standing behind our work created loyalty that no advertising could buy. "And the Morrison account wants us to handle all their fleet maintenance," Jake continued. "That's 12 vehicles on a regular service schedule." The Morrison contract represented a significant milestone. Local businesses were trusting us with their most valuable assets. Recognizing that our small garage could provide better service than the larger chain operations, the financial transformation was equally dramatic. The past due bills that had once dominated my desk were replaced by a healthy cash flow and steadily growing savings account. Emma's college fund, which had started with spare change and hope, now contained enough to cover several years of tuition at even the most expensive universities. But the business success wasn't just about money. It was about creating stability that allowed me to focus on Emma's needs without constantly worrying about financial survival. "Dad, I need to go to a special math camp this summer," Emma announced one evening, showing me a brochure for an intensive program at MIT designed for exceptionally gifted students. "It costs $3,000, but Dr. Kim says it would be perfect for someone at my level." 3 years earlier, that request would have caused panic. The cost would have been impossible, forcing us to find alternatives or miss opportunities. Now, I could evaluate the program on its merits rather than its price tag. "Tell me about what you'd learn there." Emma's eyes lit up as she described the advanced coursework. The opportunity to work with professors and graduate students. The chance to collaborate with other mathematically gifted teenagers from around the world. "It sounds perfect for you. Let's get the application started." Emma's smile was worth more than any business profit. The financial stability I'd built meant that money would never again be the barrier, preventing Emma from pursuing her potential. The garage's reputation had grown beyond automotive repair. Customers often brought their children to meet Emma, curious about the young genius who did homework in the office and could explain complex mechanical concepts with remarkable clarity. "Your daughter helped my son understand his physics homework better than his teacher did," Mrs. Patterson told me one afternoon. "She has a gift for making complicated things simple." Emma had become an unofficial ambassador for the garage, representing the values and quality that drew customers to our business. Her presence reminded people that success could be measured in more than just profits. It could be measured in the opportunities we create for the people we love. The business success also provided something I hadn't anticipated: respect from the community and family members who had once doubted my capabilities. "David, I owe you an apology," my sister Maria said during a visit to the garage. "I thought you were struggling, that you couldn't provide for Emma properly. But this place is thriving, and Emma is clearly getting everything she needs." Maria walked through the shop, observing the modern equipment, the organized workspace, and the steady stream of satisfied customers. The garage reflected the same attention to detail and commitment to excellence that characterized Emma's education. How did you turn things around so dramatically? The same way Emma improved academically by working hard, learning from mistakes, and never accepting that good enough was good enough. The business turnaround had required the same principles that guided Emma's academic success: setting high standards, investing in growth opportunities, and maintaining focus on long-term goals rather than short-term convenience. I'd upgraded equipment, invested in training, and built systems that ensured consistent quality regardless of workload pressure. The garage now operated with the efficiency and professionalism that attracted customers who valued expertise over low prices. You've built something impressive here, Maria acknowledged, and you've done it while raising an exceptional daughter. I underestimated you completely. The family's changing perception of my capabilities reflected a broader transformation in how the community viewed our story. Instead of seeing a struggling single father, people now saw a successful business owner who had raised one of the district's most accomplished students. The local newspaper featured us in an article about small business success stories, highlighting how Martinez Automotive had grown while maintaining personal service and community connections. Martinez credits his daughter's educational journey with teaching him valuable lessons about persistence and continuous improvement, the article noted. The same dedication that helped Emma excel academically has driven the business to new levels of success. The publicity brought new customers and recognition, but more importantly, it documented the progress we'd made together. The struggling mechanic who had faced family doubts about his parenting abilities was now viewed as a role model for balancing professional success with family priorities. Emma took pride in the garage's transformation, understanding that our business success provided the foundation for her educational opportunities. "Dad, I'm proud of what you've built here," she said one evening, helping me organize invoices and customer files. "You showed me that being excellent at what you do matters, whether it's fixing cars or solving equations." Her recognition of the connection between professional excellence and personal values reminded me that Emma was learning lessons that extended far beyond academics. She was observing how integrity, hard work, and customer service created sustainable success. The business license renewal forms represented more than bureaucratic requirements. They were evidence of legitimate, respected enterprise that had grown from humble beginnings into something substantial and valuable. As I signed the documents and prepared to submit them, I thought about the journey that had brought us to this point. The garage that had once struggled to pay basic expenses now generated enough income to support Emma's advanced education while building equity for our future. But the financial success was secondary to the deeper achievement it represented. Proven to myself, to Emma, and to the doubting family members that dedication and continuous improvement could overcome any initial disadvantage. The garage ran smoothly enough that I could attend Emma's academic competitions without worrying about lost income. I could invest in her educational opportunities without sacrificing our financial security. I could plan for her college education with confidence rather than anxiety. "You know what's funny?" Jake observed as we closed the shop one evening. "This place runs better now that you spend more time with Emma than it did when you worked here, 18 hours a day." He was right. Learning to balance work and family responsibilities had forced me to become more efficient, to delegate appropriately, and to focus on the activities that generated the most value. The business turnaround had been driven by the same principles that guided Emma's academic success: the belief that excellence was achievable through consistent effort, the willingness to invest in long-term growth over short-term profits, and the understanding that reputation was built one satisfied customer at a time. The renewed license would remain valid for 5 years, representing my commitment to continuing the work that had provided stability for Emma's education and security for our future. The garage was no longer just a means of survival, it was a platform for supporting Emma's extraordinary potential while building something valuable in its own right. As I placed the completed forms in the outgoing mail, I felt a deep satisfaction that went beyond financial metrics. The business success was proof that single fathers could thrive professionally while prioritizing their children's needs, that love and dedication could overcome educational and economic limitations, and that excellence in any field required the same fundamental qualities: persistence, integrity, and an unwavering commitment to continuous improvement. Emma's high school application portfolio spread across our kitchen table like a testament to academic excellence that seemed impossible to believe, even though I'd witnessed every achievement firsthand. At 12 years old, Emma was applying to high schools as a sophomore-level student, her middle school acceleration having positioned her for opportunities that stretched far beyond anything I'd imagined possible. The portfolio was comprehensive and impressive, transcripts showing straight A's in advanced coursework, standardized test scores in the 99th percentile, recommendation letters from university professors who had worked with Emma through various enrichment programs, and a personal essay that demonstrated intellectual maturity beyond her chronological age. "Dad, look at this," Emma said, holding up the application for the Metropolitan Academy of Sciences, the district's most prestigious high school program. They have research partnerships with 3 universities, and students can earn college credit while completing their high school requirements. I studied the program description, feeling simultaneously proud and overwhelmed by the opportunities available to Emma. The academy accepted only 30 students per year from across the entire state, selecting candidates based on exceptional academic performance and demonstrated potential for scientific research. The application deadline is next month, Emma continued. I need to submit a research proposal for an independent study project I'd complete during my junior year. At 12, Emma was planning research projects that most students wouldn't encounter until graduate school. Her intellectual development had accelerated so dramatically that she was now operating in academic territory that challenged even my ability to understand her work. What kind of research are you interested in? Emma pulled out a notebook filled with ideas she'd been developing. I want to study the mathematical modeling of renewable energy systems, specifically, how to optimize wind farm placement using calculus and environmental data. The project combined her interests in mathematics, environmental science, and practical applications that could benefit society. It was exactly the kind of ambitious, meaningful work that would distinguish her application from other highly qualified candidates. That sounds incredibly complex. How would you approach something like that? Dr. Kim has already agreed to be my mentor, and there's a professor at the university who specializes in environmental modeling. I'd need to learn some advanced statistical methods, but the mathematical foundation is stuff I already understand. Emma's confidence in tackling graduate-level research reflected the intellectual fearlessness we'd been nurturing since her elementary school science fair project. She'd learned that complex problems were just collections of simpler problems, solved systematically. The application process required letters of recommendation from multiple sources. Mrs. Rodriguez, despite Emma having left elementary school years earlier, eagerly agreed to write about Emma's early academic development and exceptional potential. Emma is the most intellectually gifted student I've encountered in 15 years of teaching, her letter stated. Her ability to master complex concepts while maintaining genuine curiosity and intellectual humility sets her apart from other high-achieving students. Dr. Kim's recommendation focused on Emma's mathematical sophistication and research capabilities. Emma routinely engages with material that challenges graduate students. Her mathematical intuition, combined with rigorous analytical skills, suggests she's ready for research opportunities typically reserved for much older students. The most meaningful recommendation came from Dr. Williams at the community college, who had mentored Emma through several independent study projects. Emma possesses that rare combination of exceptional intellectual ability and genuine commitment to using her gifts for meaningful purposes. She approaches research with the seriousness of a professional scientist while maintaining the wonder and enthusiasm of a young scholar discovering the world. As impressive as the external recommendations were, Emma's personal essay captured something more important: her understanding of the responsibility that came with exceptional capabilities. Intelligence without purpose is merely an interesting characteristic, she wrote. I've been fortunate to develop mathematical and scientific abilities that allow me to understand complex systems and solve difficult problems. But understanding isn't enough. I want to use these capabilities to address challenges that matter for people's lives and environmental sustainability. The essay continued with her vision for combining advanced mathematics with environmental science, describing specific research goals and potential applications for her work. It was the writing of someone who understood that exceptional capabilities created obligations to contribute meaningfully to society. Emma, this essay is remarkable, I told her after reading the draft. You're not just applying to high school, you're articulating a life purpose. Is that weird for someone my age? It's exceptional for someone any age. Most adults never develop this level of clarity about their goals and values. The application process also required documenting Emma's extracurricular achievements and community involvement. Despite her academic focus, Emma had found time to tutor younger students in mathematics, participate in environmental cleanup projects, and volunteer at the local library's summer reading program. I like helping other kids understand that learning can be fun, Emma explained when describing her tutoring work. A lot of them think they're not smart enough for advanced math, but they just need someone to explain it differently. Her volunteer activities reflected values we'd emphasized throughout her academic journey: that excellence carried responsibility, that knowledge was meant to be shared, and that true success was measured by contribution rather than just personal achievement. The portfolio also included documentation of Emma's independent research projects, including her renewable energy study that had evolved far beyond the original science fair presentation. She'd continued refining her methodology, collecting additional data, and developing mathematical models that impressed university researchers. This work could be published in a peer-reviewed journal. Dr. Williams had told us during Emma's latest progress review, the mathematical analysis is sophisticated, the methodology is sound, and the conclusions have practical applications for energy policy. The possibility of Emma publishing research as a 12-year-old was both thrilling and surreal. We'd gone from worrying about elementary school report cards to discussing academic publications in respected scientific journals. The family's reaction to Emma's high school applications ranged from amazement to concern about the pace of her academic acceleration. "She's still a child," my mother-in-law observed, reviewing the application materials during a visit. "Are you sure this level of academic pressure is healthy? Look at her," I replied, gesturing toward Emma, who was happily working on calculus problems while listening to music. "Does she seem stressed or unhappy?" Emma's emotional well-being had remained stable throughout her academic acceleration. She'd found her intellectual community, developed confidence in her abilities, and maintained the curiosity and enthusiasm that had always characterized her approach to learning. "I just worry about what happens if she burns out. If the pressure becomes too much, then we'll adjust." But right now, Emma is thriving in environments that challenge her. Limiting her opportunities would be more harmful than supporting her growth. The application deadlines created a timeline that dominated our fall schedule. Each school required different components: additional essays, interview preparations, portfolio presentations of Emma's research work. "Dad, I'm nervous about the interview at Metropolitan Academy," Emma admitted the night before her campus visit. "What if they ask questions I can't answer?" "Then you say you don't know and explain how you'd go about finding the answer. Intelligence isn't about knowing everything, it's about knowing how to learn anything." The interview went better than either of us had anticipated. Emma engaged with faculty members and current students as intellectual peers, discussing research, methodologies, and academic goals with remarkable sophistication. "Your daughter is extraordinary," the admissions director told me after Emma's interview. "Her intellectual capabilities are obvious, but her maturity and sense of purpose are equally impressive. She'd be a valuable addition to our community." The acceptance letters began arriving in February, each one representing validation of Emma's exceptional capabilities and preparation. Metropolitan Academy, Advanced Scientific Studies Program, University Partnership, High School. Every institution recognized Emma's potential and offered her opportunities for continued acceleration. "I got into all of them," Emma announced, spreading the acceptance letters across the table with a mixture of excitement and decision-making anxiety. "How do I choose?" We spent the next month visiting campuses, attending information sessions, and evaluating programs based on their alignment with Emma's interests and goals. The choice ultimately came down to which environment would best support Emma's continued growth while providing the resources she needed for her research ambitions. Metropolitan Academy feels right, Emma decided after her final campus visit. "The research opportunities are amazing, the students are genuinely excited about learning, and the teachers understand how to work with accelerated students." The decision made, we focused on preparing Emma for the transition to high school level coursework and research responsibilities that would challenge even her exceptional capabilities. The application portfolio would be preserved as documentation of Emma's academic journey and evidence of what dedication and high expectations could achieve, from the science fair project that had started it all to research proposals that impressed university professors. The portfolio told the story of intellectual development that had exceeded every prediction. As we submitted the final enrollment paperwork for Metropolitan Academy, I reflected on how far we'd traveled from those early days of family doubt and financial struggle. Emma was no longer just surviving in my care, she was thriving at levels that qualified her for the most competitive academic programs in the country. The portfolio represented more than academic achievements, it was proof that love, support, and unwavering belief in a child's potential could nurture extraordinary capabilities regardless of starting circumstances or family background. Emma was ready for challenges that would have seemed impossible just a few years earlier, and I was ready to support her continued journey toward whatever heights her remarkable mind might reach. The notification came on a Tuesday morning in April, delivered by a visibly excited school administrator who couldn't contain her enthusiasm about the news she was bringing. Emma had been selected as valedictorian of Lincoln Middle School's graduating class, an honor that seemed both inevitable and miraculous given the journey that had brought us to this moment. Emma's academic performance has been exceptional throughout her time here, Principal Morrison explained as we sat in her office. But what sets her apart isn't just her grades, it's her character, her leadership, and the positive impact she's had on our entire school community. I looked at Emma, who was trying to maintain her characteristic composure while clearly thrilled by the recognition. At 13 years old, she would be delivering the valedictorian address to a graduating class where most students were 15 or 16. The valedictorian traditionally gives a speech at the graduation ceremony, Principal Morrison continued. "Emma, you'll have approximately 7 minutes to address your classmates, their families, and the faculty. What would you like to talk about?" Emma had been thinking about this possibility for weeks, ever since her guidance counselor mentioned that her GPA was the highest in the class. Her answer reflected the thoughtfulness that had characterized her approach to every academic challenge. "I want to talk about how believing in people can change their lives." How when someone sees potential in you and supports your dreams, you can accomplish things you never thought possible. The speech topic wasn't subtle, and I understood immediately that Emma intended to use her moment in the spotlight to acknowledge our partnership and challenge the assumptions that had once limited other people's expectations for our family over. The next month, Emma worked on her speech with the same intensity she brought to mathematics research. She wrote multiple drafts, practiced in front of the mirror, and refined her message until every word served her larger purpose. "Dad, can you help me with this section?" Emma asked one evening, showing me a paragraph that discussed the importance of family support in academic achievement. I read her words carefully, struck by the maturity and insight they demonstrated. Success isn't just about individual talent or hard work. It's about having people in your life who believe in your potential, even when you don't believe in it yourself. It's about families who make sacrifices so their children can pursue opportunities. It's about parents who learn alongside their kids, who ask questions when they don't understand, who celebrate every achievement as if it were their own. This is beautiful, Em, but are you sure you want to be so personal in a public speech? Emma nodded firmly. People need to hear this. Especially kids who come from families like ours, where parents might not have college degrees but have huge hearts and endless determination. Her speech was becoming more than a graduation address. It was a manifesto about the power of unconditional support and high expectations to transform lives. Emma understood that her story could inspire other families facing similar challenges and doubts. The family's reaction to Emma's selection as valedictorian was overwhelming. My mother-in-law called in tears, barely able to speak through her emotion. "David, I am so proud of both of you. When I think about how wrong we were in the beginning, how little faith we had, you were protecting Emma the only way you knew how." I interrupted. "No one could have predicted how this would turn out. But you believed even when the rest of us were ready to give up. You kept believing in her potential." Maria's response was equally emotional. "I owe you the biggest apology in the world. I thought you were setting Emma up for failure, but you were actually setting her up for incredible success." The acknowledgments felt validating, but they also reminded me how isolated we'd been during the early years when Emma's capabilities were just beginning to emerge. The family's change of heart was welcome, but it had come after the hardest work was already done. Emma's draft speech evolved through multiple revisions, each version more polished and powerful than the last. She shared drafts with Dr. Kim, Mrs. Rodriguez, and several teachers who had supported her academic journey. "Emma, this speech is going to make everyone cry," Mrs. Rodriguez warned after reading the latest version. "You've captured something essential about the relationship between love and achievement." The local newspaper requested an interview when they learned about Emma's selection as valedictorian. The reporter, clearly impressed by Emma's articulate responses and mature perspective, asked about her future plans and academic goals. "I'll be attending Metropolitan Academy next year to continue my research in environmental mathematics," Emma explained. "But my bigger goal is to use my education to help solve problems that affect people's lives." The article that resulted from the interview portrayed Emma as a remarkable young scholar whose achievements reflected not just individual talent but family, dedication, and community support. Martinez credits her father's unwavering belief in her potential as the foundation for her academic success, the article noted. Despite facing significant challenges as a single parent, David Martinez has created an environment where his daughter's exceptional gifts could flourish. The newspaper coverage brought unexpected attention from other families facing similar situations. Parents of gifted children reached out for advice, and several requested meetings to discuss strategies for supporting accelerated academic development. "You've become a role model," Jake observed one afternoon at the garage. "People see what you and Emma have accomplished together, and it gives them hope for their own situations." The role model designation felt surreal, but I understood its significance. Emma and I had proven that exceptional academic achievement was possible regardless of family structure or economic background, that love and determination could overcome traditional limitations. As graduation day approached, Emma's nervousness about public speaking began to surface, despite her thorough preparation. "Dad, what if I forget what I want to say? What if I start crying in the middle of the speech?" Then you take a breath, look out at the audience, and remember that everyone there is rooting for you. They want to hear what you have to say. We practiced the speech countless times, with Emma delivering it to me, to Jake, to anyone who would listen. Each rehearsal increased her confidence and refined her delivery. "The most important thing is to speak from your heart," I reminded her the night before graduation. "Your words matter because they're true, because they represent your authentic experience." Emma's speech had become more than a graduation requirement. It was her opportunity to tell our story, to acknowledge the people who had supported her journey, and to inspire others facing similar challenges. The draft that lay on her desk was powerful, personal, and purposeful. It chronicled her academic development while recognizing the family support that had made her achievements possible. It challenged stereotypes about single-parent families while celebrating the transformational power of high expectations. Most importantly, the speech would allow Emma to publicly thank me for the partnership that had shaped both our lives too. Acknowledge the sacrifices I'd made and the faith I'd shown in her potential. Dad, no matter what happens tomorrow, I want you to know that everything good in my life started with you believing in me when no one else did. The comment took my breath away. Emma understood the significance of our journey, the obstacles we'd overcome, and the partnership that had made her success possible. Tomorrow, she would stand before hundreds of people and tell the story of how a mechanic's daughter had become valedictorian through the power of unwavering love and support. She would challenge assumptions about academic potential and family capability. But tonight, she was simply my daughter, preparing to share our truth with the world and prove once and for all that the doubters had been wrong about everything that mattered. The speech would be Emma's gift to me, her public acknowledgement of our partnership and her recognition that success is always a collaborative achievement. Tomorrow would vindicate every sacrifice, every late-night study session, every moment of doubt overcome by determination. Emma was ready to tell our story, and I was ready to watch her shine. Graduation day dawned clear and warm, with the kind of perfect weather that felt like a blessing on what was already shaping up to be the most significant day of our journey together. The high school auditorium filled with families, teachers, and community members who had come to celebrate the achievements of Lincoln Middle School's most academically successful graduating class in the school's history. I sat in the third row, wearing the same black suit I'd worn to Sarah's funeral 5 years earlier, but feeling entirely different emotions. Instead of grief and uncertainty, I felt pride and anticipation for the speech that would finally allow Emma to tell our story in her own words. Emma looked composed and confident in her graduation gown, the gold honor cords marking her academic achievements gleaming against the navy blue fabric. As valedictorian, she would speak near the end of the ceremony. After the principal's remarks and the presentation of awards, the auditorium buzzed with conversation as families found their seats and graduates took their places in the front rows. I spotted my mother-in-law and Maria sitting together, both visibly emotional about the milestone we were celebrating. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome this year's valedictorian, Emma Martinez. The applause was enthusiastic as Emma walked confidently to the podium, adjusting the microphone and looking out at the crowd with the poise that had impressed every teacher and administrator who had worked with her. Thank you, Principal Morrison, faculty members, families, and fellow graduates, Emma began, her voice clear and strong. 5 years ago, my mother died of cancer. I was 8 years old, and my father was suddenly facing the challenge of raising me alone. The auditorium grew quiet, people leaning forward to hear Emma's story. She had their complete attention from the first sentence. In the days after my mother's funeral, well-meaning family members suggested that maybe I should live with relatives who could provide better opportunities. They worried that my father, a mechanic without a college degree, couldn't possibly meet the educational needs of a gifted child. I felt my chest tighten as Emma recounted the doubts and challenges that had defined our early years together. She was being honest about the skepticism we'd faced, but without bitterness or resentment. They were wrong, Emma continued, her voice gaining strength, not because their concerns weren't understandable, but because they underestimated the most important factor in any child's success: having someone who believes in your potential and never gives up on your dreams. Emma paused, looking directly at me, and I felt tears threatening despite my attempts to maintain composure. My father didn't know calculus when I started showing interest in advanced mathematics, so he learned it alongside me. He didn't understand scientific research methodology when I wanted to enter science fairs, so he researched it until he could help me design better experiments. When I needed tutoring programs and enrichment opportunities that stretched our budget, he found ways to make them possible. The audience was completely silent now, absorbed in Emma's account of our partnership and growth. Education isn't just about having smart teachers or expensive schools, though those things can help. Education is about having someone in your life who values learning enough to participate in it, who cares about your growth enough to sacrifice for it, who believes in your abilities enough to push you toward challenges that develop your potential. Emma's speech was building toward the message she most wanted to convey: that love and support could overcome any perceived limitation, that family dedication mattered more than traditional advantages. I stand here today as valedictorian, not because I'm exceptionally intelligent, though I've been fortunate in that regard. I'm here because I had a father who refused to accept limitations, who turned every obstacle into an opportunity for us to grow together, who showed me that the most important education happens when families commit to learning alongside their children. The emotion in the auditorium was palpable. I could see other parents wiping their eyes, recognizing universal truths about family support and high expectations in Emma's personal story. To my fellow graduates, remember that success isn't just about individual achievement. It's about recognizing the people who believed in you, who supported your dreams, who made sacrifices so you could pursue opportunities they never had themselves. Emma's voice grew stronger as she reached the climax of her speech. To the parents in this audience, know that your children's potential has no limits when it's nurtured with love, high expectations, and unwavering support. You don't need advanced degrees to help your children excel academically. You need curiosity, dedication, and the willingness to learn alongside them. She paused again, scanning the audience before delivering her final thoughts. And to my father, who is probably trying not to cry right now. Emma smiled as gentle laughter rippled through the auditorium. Thank you for proving that love is stronger than doubt. That determination is more powerful than circumstance, and that believing in someone can literally change their life. The standing ovation began before Emma finished her last sentence. The entire auditorium rose to their feet, applauding not just Emma's speech but the story of transformation and partnership it represented. I stood with everyone else, no longer trying to hide the tears that streamed down my face. Emma had told our story with eloquence and wisdom that surpassed anything I could have imagined. She'd honored our journey while inspiring everyone present to believe in the power of family support and high expectations. As Emma returned to her seat, she caught my eye and mouthed thank you across the auditorium. But I was the one who should be thanking her for her grace, her determination, her willingness to use her moment of triumph to acknowledge our partnership. After the ceremony, the reception area buzzed with conversations as families congratulated graduates and shared in the celebration. Emma was surrounded by well-wishers, but she frequently looked toward me, making sure I was included in the recognition and praise. Mr. Martinez, that speech was extraordinary, Principal Morrison said, approaching me near the refreshment table. Emma captured something essential about the relationship between family support and academic achievement. You should be incredibly proud. I am proud, but mostly I'm grateful for the opportunity to support Emma's journey. Dr. Kim from the math program joined our conversation. Emma's speech perfectly captured why some students excel despite challenges while others struggle despite advantages. It's all about having someone who believes in your potential and acts on that belief. The validation from educators who had worked with Emma throughout her academic development meant more than I could express. These professionals had witnessed our partnership firsthand, had seen how family dedication could nurture exceptional capabilities. My mother-in-law approached with tears in her eyes and an expression of profound regret mixed with admiration. David, I owe you an apology. That's 5 years overdue. We were so wrong about your ability to support Emma's needs. You've given her something precious, the knowledge that she's loved unconditionally and believed in completely. You were trying to protect Emma. I understand that now. But you were protecting her too, in a different way. You were protecting her potential, her dreams, her right to become everything she was capable of becoming. Maria joined us, her own emotions evident. Emma's speech made me realize something important. She didn't succeed despite having you as her father, she succeeded because of it. Your love and support created the foundation for everything she's accomplished. The acknowledgement felt surreal after years of defending our choices and proving our capabilities. The family's changed perspective reflected a broader recognition that success comes in many forms and emerges from various types of support. A local newspaper reporter approached, asking for comments about Emma's speech and our family's journey. Emma's story demonstrates that exceptional achievement is possible when families commit to supporting their children's potential. I told her, it's not about having all the answers, it's about being willing to find them together. The reporter also interviewed several other families who had been inspired by Emma's message. Hearing about their journey gives me hope for my own daughter, one parent said. It shows that love and dedication can overcome any perceived limitation. As the reception wound down, Emma and I walked to the car together, both processing the significance of the day and the speech that had transformed a graduation ceremony into a celebration of family partnership and unwavering support. How do you feel? I asked as we settled into the truck, relieved that I didn't forget what I wanted to say, happy that people seemed to understand the message, grateful for everything we've accomplished together. Emma's response reflected the maturity and perspective that had developed alongside her academic capabilities. She understood the broader significance of her achievements and the story they told about potential, family support, and the power of high expectations. I'm proud of your academic accomplishments, but I'm even more proud of who you've become as a person. Your speech today showed wisdom and gratitude that many adults never develop. I learned that from watching you. You always taught me that success is meaningless unless you use it to help others and acknowledge the people who made it possible. The newspaper article that appeared the following week captured the essence of Emma's speech and its impact on the community. Young Scholar's graduation speech celebrates power of family support. Read the headline. The article quoted extensively from Emma's address while providing context about our family's journey from early struggles to academic excellence. Martinez's story demonstrates that exceptional achievement is possible when families refuse to accept limitations and commit to supporting their children's potential, the article concluded. Her speech reminded everyone present that love, dedication, and high expectations can overcome any obstacle. The article included a photograph of Emma and me at the graduation ceremony, both of us smiling with the quiet satisfaction that comes from achieving something meaningful together. The validation wasn't just personal, it was public recognition that our approach had succeeded, that the doubters had been wrong, that love and determination could nurture extraordinary potential regardless of starting circumstances. Emma's valedictorian speech would be remembered as more than a graduation address. It was a testament to the transformational power of believing in someone completely, a celebration of family partnership, and proof that potential has no limits when it's supported with wisdom and unwavering love. The doubters had been silenced, not through argument but through evidence. The evidence of Emma's remarkable achievements, and the story of how they had been made possible through our partnership. We had proven that success comes in many forms, that families create their own advantages through dedication and high expectations, and that love truly is stronger than any limitation others might try to impose. The validation was complete, but more importantly, our journey was just beginning. Emma was ready for new challenges, and I was ready to continue supporting her toward whatever heights her extraordinary mind might reach. The manila envelope containing Emma's high school acceptance letters sat on our kitchen table like a treasure chest of possibilities. 6 different institutions had offered Emma admission with full academic scholarships, each representing pathways, 2 futures I could barely imagine when we'd started this journey together. Metropolitan Academy of Sciences had offered Emma a place in their most advanced program, with opportunities to conduct university-level research while completing her high school requirements. The Science and Mathematics Magnet School had created a customized curriculum, specifically designed around Emma's interests in environmental mathematics. Even the State University had extended an offer for early admission to their honors college. "This is a good problem to have," Emma said, spreading the acceptance letters across the table with the same methodical approach she brought to solving complex equations. "But it's still a problem. How do I choose between so many amazing opportunities?" At 13, Emma was making educational decisions that would shape her entire future. The weight of those choices felt enormous, but her maturity and clear sense of purpose gave me confidence in whatever direction she might choose. "What matters most to you right now?" I asked, settling into the chair across from her. Emma considered the question thoughtfully. "I want to keep learning at the level that challenges me, but I also want to stay connected to the values we've built together. I don't want to become someone who's smart but not wise, accomplished but not grounded." Her response reflected the depth of character that had developed alongside her intellectual capabilities. Emma understood that academic achievement was meaningful only when balanced with wisdom, humility, and connection to something larger than personal success. All of these programs would challenge you academically. The question is which environment would best support your complete development, intellectual, emotional, and moral. We spent the next week visiting campuses and meeting with faculty members, administrators, and current students. Each institution offered compelling advantages, but Emma's reactions helped clarify her priorities. "I like that Metropolitan Academy requires community service projects," she observed after touring their campus. "It shows they understand that education should prepare students to contribute to society, not just accumulate knowledge." Emma's decision-making process impressed everyone who worked with her. She asked thoughtful questions about research opportunities, teaching methods, and the values that guided each program's approach to education. The choice ultimately came down to fit which environment would best support Emma's continued growth while providing opportunities for the kind of meaningful work that motivated her most deeply. "I want to go to Metropolitan Academy," Emma announced after her final campus visit. "The research partnerships are exactly what I need for my environmental mathematics projects, and the students and faculty share my commitment to using knowledge for positive impact." Her decision felt right for all the reasons that mattered most. Metropolitan Academy would challenge Emma intellectually while supporting the values and character we'd cultivated throughout her academic journey. The enrollment process required one final meeting with the school's guidance counselor, who wanted to discuss Emma's unique situation as a 13-year-old entering high school as a sophomore. "Emma's academic preparation is obviously exceptional," Dr. Sarah Kim explained during our meeting, "but we want to ensure she's ready for the social and emotional aspects of this transition as well." I appreciated the school's holistic approach to Emma's development. They understood that intellectual advancement didn't automatically mean readiness for all aspects of a more advanced educational environment. "I think I'm ready," Emma said confidently. "I've been working with older students for 2 years now, and I've learned how to relate to people based on shared interests rather than just age." Dr. Kim smiled at Emma's response. "That's exactly the kind of maturity we hope to see. Emma, you'll be our youngest student, but you won't be the only one who's academically accelerated. You'll find peers who understand your experience." As we left the meeting, I felt a mixture of pride and anticipation about the next phase of Emma's educational journey. She was ready for challenges that would have seemed impossible just a few years earlier, and I was ready to continue supporting her growth in whatever ways she needed. The family's response to Emma's high school placement was unanimously supportive. The doubts and concerns that had characterized their earlier reactions had been replaced by admiration and excitement about Emma's opportunities. "I can't believe how far you've both come," my mother-in-law said during a celebration dinner at our house. "Emma, you're going to do amazing things with your education, and David, you've proven that love and dedication can overcome any obstacle." The acknowledgement felt validating, but more importantly, It represented the family's recognition that our unconventional approach had succeeded beyond anyone's expectations. Emma's summer before starting high school was filled with preparation activities designed to ease her transition to more advanced coursework. She participated in a mathematics camp at the university, conducted an independent research project on renewable energy optimization, and read extensively from the recommended literature list for her honors English class. "Are you nervous about starting high school?" I asked one evening as Emma worked on a calculus problem set that looked impossibly complex to me. "A little nervous, but mostly excited. I finally feel like I'm ready for the kind of challenges that will help me grow into the person I want to become." Emma's response captured something essential about our journey together. We'd never been satisfied with easy answers or comfortable limitations. We'd consistently sought out challenges that pushed both of us to become better versions of ourselves. The garage continued to thrive, providing the financial stability that allowed me to support Emma's educational opportunities without stress about basic necessities. Jake had developed into a true business partner, handling much of the day-to-day operations, while I focused on the complex repairs that generated the highest profits. "You know what's funny?" Jake observed one afternoon as we worked on a particularly challenging engine rebuild. "This place runs better now that you spend half your time supporting Emma's education than it did when you worked here 18 hours a day." He was right. Learning to balance work and family responsibilities had forced me to become more efficient, more strategic, and more focused on the activities that created the most value. The success of the garage had also opened doors for community involvement that felt meaningful and rewarding. I'd been invited to serve on the school district's advisory committee for career and technical education, sharing insights about how to prepare students for skilled trades while maintaining pathways to higher education. "Your story demonstrates that success comes in many forms," the committee chair had said when extending the invitation. "We need voices like yours to help other parents understand that supporting their children's potential doesn't require following traditional paths." As Emma's first day of high school approached, we established new routines that would support her increased academic responsibilities while maintaining the close partnership that had characterized our relationship. "I'll still need your help with some things," Emma assured me, as we organized her study space for more advanced coursework. "Maybe not with the math anymore, but definitely with staying grounded and remembering what really matters." Her comment reminded me that my role as Emma's father was evolving rather than diminishing. As she became more intellectually independent, my focus would shift toward supporting her emotional development and helping her maintain connection to the values that would guide her future choices. The evening before Emma started high school, we sat together on the front porch, watching the sunset and reflecting on the journey that had brought us to this moment. "Do you ever think about what Mama would say if she could see us now?" Emma asked. "I think she'd be amazed by what we've accomplished together, but mostly, I think she'd be proud that we never gave up on each other." Emma nodded thoughtfully. "I hope we keep growing together, even as I get older and my education gets more advanced. We will." Growing together has been the secret to everything we've achieved. I don't see any reason to stop now. The acceptance letters that had started this conversation were filed away now, replaced by class schedules, textbook lists, and research project proposals that represented Emma's new beginning. But they would always remind us of the possibilities that opened when families refused to accept limitations and commit to supporting their children's potential. Emma was ready for challenges that would prepare her for a future filled with opportunities. To use her exceptional capabilities for meaningful purposes, I was ready to continue evolving as the father she needed, supporting her growth while maintaining the values and connection that had sustained us through our most difficult times. The new beginning wasn't just about Emma's education, it was about our continued journey together, facing whatever challenges and opportunities lay ahead with the same determination and partnership that had brought us this far. We'd proven that love is stronger than doubt, that potential has no limits when properly nurtured, and that families can create their own advantages through dedication and high expectations. The doubters had been wrong about everything that mattered. Emma was thriving at the highest academic levels while remaining grounded in wisdom and values that would guide her throughout her life. Our story was far from over, but this chapter was ending perfectly with Emma poised for new challenges, and our partnership stronger than ever, ready to face whatever amazing possibilities the future might hold.